Chapter 551. As for the weaker members of the Heaven Destroyer and Spirit Devourer teams, as well as the even weaker members of the June family, they simply fell to their knees. They were forced to their knees by this pressure, and some even prostrated themselves on the ground. The unprecedented pressure was accompanied by boundless pain. After the enemy retreated, June Moxie's consciousness frantically attacked. June Moxie could not help but let out a painful groan before disappearing with a swoosh. He did not even have the time to look at the June family's losses. He did not even have the time to look at his grandfather and third uncle's injuries. His entire consciousness had already been shattered, and he was sucked into the Hongjun Pagoda. He had completely disappeared without a trace. Jun Zhantian and Jun Wui had originally thought that they were going to die, and they had already given up all hope. Who would have thought that they would be saved, and the situation would turn around? They forced their injured bodies to go forward and thank him, but they did not expect that their savior would suddenly disappear. Such a strange temper. Both father and son had the same thought. But when they thought that such a powerful person was actually June Moxie's master, they could not help but rejoice. Therefore, the June family would be safe for a long time to come after this incident. Jun Zhantian sighed and looked at the mess in the courtyard. He rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, there were no major casualties. This was truly a blessing from the heavens. He calmly issued an order for people to clean up the courtyard and restore it to its original state. Everyone was to rest. Grandpa June did not say any beautiful words, but his tone was a lot more amiable. All of this could be clearly felt by everyone present tonight. Grandpa June was very clear. Everyone present tonight was the true backbone of the June family. People who could be relied on. These people were his own family from now on. There was no need to express gratitude towards one's own family. However, one must wholeheartedly seek the welfare of one's own family. This was what a family head should do. As for those who did not come, Jun Zhantian had already made plans. Once this storm was over, he would expel them all. What was the use of keeping people who could only enjoy and not go through trials and tribulations together? After making the arrangements, Jun Zhantian hurriedly instructed Jun Wui, "Hurry up and see how Xia is doing. Why hasn't such a big scene appeared yet?" Jun Wui accepted the order and left. As for Mei Shuyan, she was shocked. Mei Shuyan was the closest to June Moxie, and she was also the strongest among the people present. Although the groan June Moxie let out before he disappeared was almost inaudible, it was still captured by Mei Shuyan. In a split second, she was shocked. Why would such a powerful man let out such a painful groan? Why did this moaning sound so similar to June Moxie's? Could it be that this mysterious master was June Moxie himself? Just using a mysterious method? But, how was this possible? The Qian Sun Serpent Queen staggered over and said, "Oh? Which expert has already left?" Mei Shuyan stood there in a daze, pondering over the doubts in her heart. She did not hear Snake King's words at all. Every word that June Moxie had said to her echoed in her ears. June Moxie's voice echoed in her ears bit by bit. Gradually, she became more and more certain that the groan just now was indeed June Moxie's voice. How is he? To be able to kill an expert above the level of a great master with a single move, if one's strength was not sufficient and forcefully used such a ruthless move, one would have to pay a heavy price. This was the convention of using a move that one could not use themselves. Presumably, June Moxie was no exception. June Moxie had already shocked everyone present, but because I said that I must kill that bastard, he forced himself to make a move. Was it all for me? Was it for him? Was it for me? Was it? Was it? It was only now that Mei Shuyan finally realized that she had been in contact with June Moxie for so long. June Moxie had laughed, scolded, shouted, angrily reprimanded, and had been in almost all kinds of states. But, she had never seen him cry or groan, even when she had used the world cage to imprison him in Tian-nan, and then abused him wantonly, he had never cried or groaned. June Moxie had suffered so much on the way back from Tian-nan to Tianxiang. If it had been someone else, they would have been terrified and in pain by now. But June Moxie had not. She had hit him once again outside Tianxiang City, but he had not. It seemed as if this man could not feel pain. But now, Mei Shuyan had clearly heard his painful groans a moment ago. An extremely strange emotion had filled her heart in a split second. She was suddenly worried, and felt as if her heart was in pain. She did not open her mouth to speak, but suddenly turned around and flew towards June Moxie's courtyard. She needed to confirm it. After all, such a big thing had happened. With June Moxie's character, there was no reason for him to not show up. Although Mei Shuyan had hoped that June Moxie would find an opportunity to escape, she also knew that June Moxie was not that kind of person. He was so indifferent to life and death, and he was so proud and arrogant. How could he be afraid of the enemy and escape alone? If one said that June Moxie would escape, Mei Shuyan would be the first to not believe it. But he had not shown up, and that was the first strange thing. If he had gone to look for his master, then with such a backer, it would be even more impossible for him to escape. Now that his master had appeared, even the strongest enemy would not be a threat. Especially now that the enemy had retreated, there was no reason for June Moxie not to show up. If he was still in the June family, then that would mean that the mysterious black-robed man was not him. But, if he could not be found, then that groan, what did it mean? If it was really him, then what price did he have to pay to achieve what he had just done? At Mei Shuyan's level, she already knew that there were many unexplainable things in the world. In fact, even when she was at her peak, if she had not suffered from internal injuries, she also knew that there was a secret technique that allowed her to borrow strength from the heaven and earth. But, the price of using this secret technique was too high. Unless it was an unsolvable situation, or if it was a situation of certain death, no one would be stupid enough to use this technique. Could it be that the technique that June Moxie used was this kind of strange technique? Then, he had only just touched the edge of Shinxian, so how could he withstand the majestic power of the heaven and earth? Even I would have to pay the price with my life, let alone June Moxie, this insignificant Shinxian. If that was the case, then perhaps that weak groan could be explained. Mei Shuyan's figure was like lightning, and she rushed into June Moxie's small courtyard, and then she searched everywhere. Then, she came out again, and ran around the entire June family like a lightning bolt. Her spirit sense was everywhere, and she did not miss a single corner. She had even forgotten that her internal organs were still in severe pain, and that blood was still slowly flowing out of the corner of her mouth. She had completely forgotten about it, and only her extremely anxious and tired eyes were still earnestly searching every corner. Finally, Mei Shuyan stopped in front of the door of Elegant Fragrance Hut. Everything in the June family was the same as before, but June Moxie had disappeared. Although he had often disappeared mysteriously before, but Mei Shuyan knew that this time, it was different. It was completely different. The snowflakes were still falling at a moderate pace, and this was the weather that Mei Shuyan liked the most in the past. But today, Mei Shuyan, who had just escaped from a great calamity, felt completely gloomy in her heart. Leaning on the pillar, Mei Shuyan felt weak for the first time. Where did he go? Ah, she gently closed her eyes, and suddenly, a drop of tear slowly seeped out. If I had been a bit stronger during the siege of the top 10 experts, how could I have been injured? How could I be of no help to him now? How could this be? Qian Sun Serpent Queen gently walked over, and looked at her rather worriedly. Elder sister, two extremely sharp and ruthless eyes suddenly burst out of Mei Shuyan's eyes. She still stood motionless, but the black hair on her head suddenly fluttered. A good while passed, and Mei Shuyan suddenly turned her head. Her eyes were cold. Where are Tiger King and Bear King? Big brother, we are here. Bear Mountain and Earthcracker's bodies were riddled with wounds. They took a step forward, and stood opposite to Mei Shuyan. You too, why didn't you use the divine weapons that June Moxie had given you? You only knew how to use your fists and feet to kill. Are you stupid? Mei Shuiyan reprimanded them in a severe tone. I. Bear Mountain and Earth Cracker were tongue-tied. They wanted to say that they didn't have the time, but they didn't dare to say it. Instead, they lowered their heads in shame. In fact, the two Beast Kings hadn't gotten used to the days when they had weapons in their hands. So, they had only remembered to use them after they had been fighting for a while. But, the battle had ended by the time they were about to use them. However, this may be a good thing for now. The people of the three holy lands may misjudge your strength. So, you two must immediately return to the Tianfa forest. You don't need to hesitate to kill anyone who tries to stop you. And, remember that those two divine weapons aren't just for show. You must bring those pills back safely even if your bones are crushed to pieces. Mei Shuiyan's voice was like 1,000-year-old Xian ice. Also, inform all the level 9 Xian beasts in the Tianfa forest that they can't break through the bottleneck within 2 years. Then, I will kill them one by one when I return. What's the point of keeping them if they're so useless? I will deal with all the other Xian beasts that are stuck in the bottleneck, regardless of their level. Even you, Third Crane, and the others won't be an exception. Then, I will gather in the Tianfa forest and wait for my orders. If he dies, I will make the three holy lands and the millions and millions of creatures of this continent buried together with him. The murderous aura in Mei Shuiyan's eyes condensed into a blood-red substance as she spoke the last sentence. Her tone was resolute and decisive. In fact, there was no room for negotiation. Can a gentleman be deceived? Let's see what this enraged gentleman will do to those conspirators. Chapter 552. Big Bear and Earth Cracker shrunk their heads as they looked at Mei Shuiyan. Then, Big Bear stammered, then. Boss, are we leaving now? Get out of here. Mei Shuiyan snapped. The bodies of the two Beast Kings shivered. Then, they rushed away as if they were fleeing for their lives. In the blink of an eye, the two tall and sturdy silhouettes had disappeared in the snowstorm that filled the sky. Their movement techniques were extremely fast. In fact, they were even faster than when they had fought against the three holy lands. Mei Shuiyan was feeling uneasy. But, this was the best time. The people of the three holy lands were still in the vicinity of Tianxiang. They hadn't gone far. Mei Shuiyan had calculated their thoughts. Bear King and Tiger King would need to recuperate before continuing their journey since the June family's mysterious guest had helped them. So, even if they had planned to intercept them, they would have planned it a few days later. But, the two Beast Kings would be thousands of miles away by then. So, it would be too late to intercept them, therefore, Mei Shuiyan had made a prompt decision. She had ordered Bear Mountain and Earth Cracker to return at full speed despite their injuries. Because this was the safest time for them even though they were injured. This was much safer than the dangers they would face after recuperating from their injuries in a few days. Mei Shuiyan stood quietly in the wind and snow as she watched the two Beast Kings leave. She gently stroked the pillar with her hand as she looked at the courtyard with an infatuated look in her eyes. June Moxie's words and smiles seemed to appear in her mind. I wonder, how is he? I'm really worried. Qian Sun Serpent Queen stood quietly on one side with a complicated look in her eyes. A long time passed. Mei Shuiyan sighed softly and said, have you found June Moxie's whereabouts? The Qian Sun Serpent Queen replied, the June family is also doing their best to search for him. Don't worry, eldest sister. Although we can't find him for the time being, he has such a tyrannical master. So, he'll be fine. Mei Shuiyan sighed and closed her eyes helplessly. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that, he's pretending to be his master. But I can't say it out loud. Mei Shuiyan is anxious, but there's nothing she can do. He stood there in a daze for a long time. Finally, he felt agitated and spat out a mouthful of blood, just when Jun Moxie was finally unable to control it, and the Hongjun Pagoda's chi field suddenly exploded. The experts of the three holy lands who were running away suddenly stopped in their tracks, and turned around to look at the storm of chi from afar. They couldn't help but sweat profusely, and their hearts were filled with joy. So ferocious. Brother Z, it was really dangerous this time. If it wasn't for Brother Z's prompt decision, I'm afraid. The great golden city's three-pearled throne master, Xiao Wei Quan, flew at high speed with lingering fear in his heart. He moved closer to Zi Jinghong, and the two of them ran side by side as he whispered. It was really dangerous. Zi Jinghong also wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. She turned around to look, and gnashed her teeth as she said, Ning Wuqing and Ma Jiangming, those bastards, went back and said that everything would be settled as long as we dealt with Venerable Mei. But, who would have thought that we would encounter such a fiend when we came here in such a majestic manner? Not only did we suffer heavy casualties, but we also suffered a huge defeat. These pockmarks aren't called pockmarks, they're called scams. The third head of the Purple Clan was filled with righteous indignation at this moment. He thought of how he had lowered his head and bowed in front of that mysterious man, and couldn't help but feel angry. That man's astonishing strength would have left all 90 of us behind if it weren't for the sake of the war for seizing the heavens. Let's not talk about anything else. Just think about that black fire. It only touched Half-Body's body a little. And, think about that old freak when we were facing Ning Wuqing. That old freak waved his hand, and sent out 2 huge waves of black fire. Brother Xiao, this. Zi Jinghong smacked her lips, and shook her head. That's right. That black fire alone had the ability to make us stay behind. Once the black fire was fully unleashed, it would burn an entire area in an instant. Furthermore, when he retracted his hand, such a terrifying thing had disappeared so easily and inexplicably. It was truly a godly skill. Brother Z. Xiao Weiqing shivered. However, he didn't know that Jun Moxie had also wanted to do the same thing. The problem was that Jun Moxie didn't have the ability to do so at that time. He could have plotted against 1 or 2 people. But, Jun Moxie would have been at his wit's end if he had been prepared to put some distance between them. Xiao Weiqing said, that mysterious senior's black fire is extraordinary. But, Brother Z, I don't know if you've noticed, but, he suddenly reappeared after he had incinerated Half-Bodied. I thought that he must have drilled out of the ground. That's the only explanation. But, the place where he drilled out didn't seem to be empty at all. In fact, there wasn't even the slightest bit of mysterious energy fluctuation. He came and went like a ghost. He could have drilled into the ground if he couldn't defeat his opponent. That's right. He's an old freak who has lived for more than 1,000 years. So, how can he be a small matter? Zi Jinghong comforted him. After all, he's been practicing for more than 1,000 years. What she meant was, how many years have we been practicing compared to that old freak? What's the rush? Brother Z is right. Xiao Weiqing changed his train of thought. Then, he calmed down. The information we received was wrong. Our army was exhausted to death. Fortunately, our illusory ocean of blood didn't suffer many losses. Otherwise, wouldn't we have been skinned alive by the sovereign? It's no wonder that Huang Taiyang was vaporized without a sound. He had such a terrifying old freak. So, he would have turned into a black moon even if there were 10 or 8 Huang Taiyang here. Zi Jinghong hatefully spoke up. Our great golden city didn't suffer many losses either. Xiao Weiqing also heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he gloatingly said, but, Hermitage Half-Bodied has been set ablaze. This incident must have dealt a heavy blow to Hermitage. Even the great chief has been incinerated, hee. The two of them looked at Hermitage Ning Wuqing's gloomy face. And, they suddenly felt happy. I reckon that he won't feel good when he goes back. The information we received was seriously wrong. It had led to the death of the great chief. Even the sword that had accompanied him for many years had turned into molten iron. It would have been strange if the palace lord hadn't cursed Ning Wuqing when he returned to Hermitage, but that half-body deserves to die. Listen to his words. Does he have the bearing of a superior great master? Even a hoodlum wouldn't stoop to such a level. This old man looks down on him. Zi Jinghong snorted. Then, she said, this old man felt a faint sense of satisfaction when I saw that old man get incinerated. That's good. Feng Zhuqing was right. He only had half of his body left. So, there's no point in him living. Brother Z is right. Then, should we change the other plan? Xiao Weiqing's eyes flickered. That won't be necessary. Senior Feng has always been the backer of the Jun family. He's a human being after all. He didn't mention anything about the Tian Fa forest. So, we still have to do what we have to do. He didn't say anything about the Tian Fa forest even if he cares about it. So, we can just push the blame and say that we didn't know about it. So, he won't make things difficult for us for the sake of the war for seizing the heavens. Moreover, what's done can't be undone. So, it'll be useless even if he gets angry. After all, can he fight against the entire strange races by himself? Won't the overall situation depend on us? Zi Jinghong slowly said. The corners of her mouth revealed a sly smile. She didn't know that Jun Moxie had wanted to say something at that time. But, he was in so much pain that he couldn't say anything. Let's leave Tian Xiang in that case. Then, let's concentrate on Tian Fa. We can kill the Tiger King and the Bear King first. Xiao Weiqing clenched his fist fiercely. The Tiger King and the Bear King have suffered serious injuries today. So, they should be able to rest for a few days with such strong reinforcements. So, we can set up our trap. Unlike the Venerable Mei and the Snake King, they don't have divine weapons. So, I believe it'll be easier to kill them. Zi Jinghong's eyes flashed. Oh, right. Didn't Jun Moxie always say that he wants to go to the Dongfang family? The Venerable Mei is in love with them. I'm afraid he'll follow them. That'll be our best chance. But, we must be careful not to touch Jun Moxie. We must keep him alive. Maybe, we can negotiate with the black-robed man. Also, we must increase our surveillance on the Jun family. If necessary, we can capture some of the Jun family members. Xiao Weiqing couldn't help but interrupt. Are you courting death? Zi Jinghong looked at him as if she was looking at an idiot. That Feng Zhuqing is obviously staying with the Jun family. You must know that refining pills is always done in a fixed place. And, the aristocratic hall of the Jun family has been auctioning those miraculous pills. The quantity is frightening. So, it's obvious that they were refined by that old monster. This also means that the old monster has always been with the Jun family. He has never left. Kidnap the Jun family's people. You're the great Golden City's Three Pearls King. But, you came up with such a suicidal idea. Xiao Weiqing's forehead started to sweat. He realized that he couldn't touch the Jun family. Actually, we might as well send people to mobilize a large sum of money. Moreover, we also need to gather all the elixirs we've collected over the years. That old freak's methods are brilliant, and he has supernatural powers. But, he's still very concerned about the battle for seizing the heavens. So, we just need to follow the rules of the aristocratic hall. Or, we need to sincerely ask for help. Then, that old freak might not necessarily reject us. Perhaps, he might even help us refine some pills, hee. Brother Z is right. I believe that all our problems will be solved as long as we follow that old monster's instructions. Xiao Weiqing agreed. We can't relax about the Beast King either. Immediately send people to monitor the Jun family's road. Report to us if Tiger King and Bear King come out. Then, we'll intercept them once they're 500 kilometers away from Tian Xiang. Xi Jinghong resolutely ordered, "It'll be a disaster if they break out of the encirclement and return to the Jun family's residence." "You're right." Xiao Weiqing pondered and said, "But, we must also send a few people to the city gate. Or, we must quickly dispatch horses to the southern heaven road. This is to ensure that nothing goes wrong. We must act quickly if that's the case. It was dangerous this time. But, fortunately, we didn't suffer any serious injuries. Our strength is still relatively intact. So, it won't be a big deal even if some of our people are injured." Xi Jinghong smiled mischievously. "Hermitage's people are like a group of dragons without a leader. But, we can still reorganize them. After all, their strength isn't small." Xiao Weiqing understood her meaning and smiled. Chapter 553. As for Jun Moxie, his mind relaxed, and he immediately suffered a strong backlash. His consciousness became muddled, and he was instantly sucked into the Hongjun Pagoda. He felt as if he had been fried in a wok of oil 500 times, and then his tongue was pulled out and his heart was gouged out 10,000 times. Jun Moxie completely lost consciousness the moment he was sucked into the Hongjun Pagoda. Jun Moxie's face, body, and the 7 apertures of his head started to ooze blood as he fainted. The black robe that was covering his body started to swell up in a strange manner. Then, it suddenly exploded into pieces with a loud bang. Even the outermost robe was torn apart due to the extreme expansion. How could the rest of his clothes be spared? So, Jun Dashao once again put on a limited version of nakedness. The extremely thick white fog was like a solid substance, and it carried traces of blood as it spurted out from all over Jun Moxie's naked body like a fountain. It only stopped after a long time. His blood-soaked body was still twitching in pain, twitching, and twisting. It seemed as if the tendons of his entire body were also moving incessantly. The borrowed strength this time was really too much. It far exceeded the limit that Jun Moxie could bear. The damage to the body was naturally unprecedented and unparalleled. At the last moment, if the Hongjun Pagoda hadn't suddenly sucked him in, perhaps Jun Moxie would have already exploded into a mist of blood. After a while, the rich spiritual energy of the Hongjun Pagoda surged into Jun Moxie's body, which was lying on the ground. It madly surged into every part of his body, his 5 senses, and every pore of his body. It madly surged into every nook and cranny of his body. After an unknown period of time, Jun Moxie finally twitched his fingers, and slowly opened his eyes. He looked around with difficulty, and finally murmured, "Motherfucker, I didn't die." Good, really good. It seemed that Jun Dashao also knew that he was going to die this time. This time, he had really gone too far. As soon as he came back to his senses, he immediately felt a splitting headache, as if there was a mischievous monkey jumping back and forth in his brain. The veins on both sides of his temples were twitching crazily, as if he was skipping rope. Every joint in his body felt as if there were 10,000 steel needles piercing him. The most terrible thing was that even his little brother was swaying back and forth in pain. Jun Moxie furrowed his brows and cursed, "Damn it, it's none of your business. You're not needed in this kind of battle. Why are you making a fuss? Are you trying to show off your sturdiness?" Just as he finished cursing, he was quickly drowned by the pain. Since there was no one here to hear him, Jun Dashao simply could not bear it anymore. He screamed at the top of his lungs, as if 10,000 pigs were being slaughtered at the same time. His aura was earth-shattering. "Motherfucker, why is it so painful? It's really fucking challenging my limits." Jun Moxie's mouth was the strengthened version of the 3-character sutra. He had gone over all the curses he could say from his previous life to this life, and even more than once. But he still felt the pain, so he cursed again in different dialects. From the various deities to the netherworld, from the Buddha Tathagata to the Earth Lord, they were all cursed. Then, it was the people from the 3 holy lands who were cursed. Starting from the previous generation, then going back generation by generation, all the way to the 72 generations of ancestors. All the female direct relatives were cursed, not a single one was spared. Jun Dashao furrowed his brows, and his eyes widened as he cursed the heavens and the earth. He was in high spirits, and his tongue became smoother and smoother. The more he cursed, the more skillful he became. His saliva flew everywhere. If a cursing competition could be held in his current state, Jun Moxie would definitely be the champion. And it would be an overwhelming victory. No one would have any objections, and no one would be dissatisfied. It was enough to curse those dead people until their bones danced disco in their coffins until they died of exhaustion. While his mouth was moving non-stop, the Hongjun Pagoda's spiritual energy did not stop healing him just because his tongue was too poisonous. It was still doing its duty, until suddenly, why doesn't it hurt anymore? Jun Moxie finally stopped cursing, because he realized that his body did not hurt anymore. Could it be that cursing was actually a wonderful healing method? Wahahaha, in the past, Guan Yu could play Go without batting an eyelid. Today, there's Jun Dashao's torrential cursing to resist the 18 levels of torture in hell. Looks like this young master, should also become an immortal legend. Jun Moxie was somewhat pleased with himself. It was a pity that this could not be spread out. Otherwise, the customs of this world would definitely change because of this, with Jun Dashao's combination of thousands of years of cursing, national cursing, and world cursing, if it were to be turned into actual words and spread out. This would be an earth-shattering change to the human society of the Xian continent. At the very least, it would be able to change the monotonous concept of people's cursing, and form a diverse system of cursing. And this generation's super grandmaster was none other than Jun Moxie and Jun Dashao. Although it was indeed not painful anymore, his entire body still did not have the slightest bit of strength. He was still lying on the ground, and did not even have the strength to sit up. In fact, he did not even have the strength to move a little. Jun Moxie was very scared. He naturally knew how dangerous it was for him this time. Although he was scared, if he had to choose again, he would still do the same. He would absolutely not regret it. Even if his soul really flew away, and his body died, so what? Because the people here were his family, and they were the people he cared about the most in this life. As long as I, Jun Moxie, still have a single breath left in me, not to mention the 3 holy lands, even the gods in the heavens will not be able to harm them. At least, before stepping over my dead body, no one will be able to. Jun Moxie gritted his teeth and slowly circulated the art of unlocking heaven's fortune in his body. Only when he raised his chi did he realize that his dantian was actually empty. There was not even a drop of inner energy left. It was truly deserted. With great effort, he opened his inner vision and used his divine sense to examine his empty dantian. It was like a dry and cracked earth, barren and desolate. Really awesome. Not even a little bit was left for me. This is really playing with me to death. At least leave some for me to nourish myself. Jun Moxie swallowed a mouthful of saliva, closed his eyes, and began to circulate his chi to recover. But he did not know that if he had not practiced alchemy like crazy, he would not even have been able to fuse and borrow the energy this time. Gradually, at an extremely slow speed, strands of energy were drawn out from his severely damaged meridians like gossamer threads, and slowly gathered in his completely dried up dantian. Then, Jun Moxie carefully controlled this strand of spiritual energy, and carefully circulated it in his body for 1 cycle. After 1 cycle, his spirit inexplicably rose. Then, he began the 2nd cycle, and when he reached the 9th cycle, there was a sudden boom sound. Everywhere in his body, his meridians, muscles, tendons, bones, the purest energy was released and added to the spiritual energy. The chi flow in his meridians became stronger and stronger, and after each cycle, it became thicker than the previous cycle. At the same time, the heaven and earth spiritual chi outside his body began to emit a shio sound, and like a tidal wave, it crazily poured into his body, quickly transforming into energy, and then returning to his dantian. After 1 cycle, it completely transformed into the purest spiritual energy. At this moment, Intentionally or unintentionally, Jun Moxie had entered into a transcendent state where he forgot about himself and everything else. He only knew that he was blindly circulating and crazily demanding. As the qi flow in his meridians continued to strengthen, his body's absorption of the Hongjun Pagoda's spiritual qi also became faster and faster. The rich and boundless heaven and earth spiritual qi was produced inside the Hongjun Pagoda, and at a speed visible to the naked eye, it turned into a milky white qi flow, and drilled into Jun Moxie's pores. What kind of existence was the Hongjun Pagoda? No matter how much Jun Moxie demanded, it would always be able to supply it, and it seemed to be very easy. Jun Moxie's dantian had been completely dried up after his narrow escape from death. His dantian had become completely empty, and it had become completely clean and smooth. This had given rise to a sense of dread in the heart of the daring Jun Moxie. Therefore, Jun Moxie tirelessly operated the art of unlocking heaven's fortune again and again, round after round. He did not notice at all that the qi flow in his meridians was slowly transforming into a third layer of thin silver thread, and then this silver thread continued to grow and strengthen along with the circulation of the Xian technique. The current silver thread had already surpassed the previous state of Jun Moxie, and it was still growing. If Jun Moxie were to open his inner vision, he would definitely find that his meridians were also beginning to expand due to the silver thread. At the same time, on Jun Moxie's forehead, a faint shadow slowly began to appear, and gradually became clearer. A colorful and exquisite pagoda-shaped object appeared in front of his forehead, like a small forehead ornament hanging in the air. The pagoda-shaped forehead ornament gradually became clearer, and slowly condensed into a real object. It rotated on Jun Moxie's forehead, and every time it rotated, it would emit tens of thousands of rays of light, like a rainbow after the rain, all concentrated here at this moment. Of course, all of this, Jun Moxie was completely unaware. The current him was like a ghost that had starved to death for 300 years, and suddenly saw a pile of steamed buns. He crazily absorbed the heaven and earth spiritual qi, endlessly, and never satisfied. Even if he was stuffed to death, he still had to absorb. After an unknown amount of time, the small pagoda-shaped object on his forehead slowly stopped rotating, and stopped 3 inches away from Jun Moxie's forehead. He had finally reached his limit. Jun Moxie felt that his absorption of the heaven and earth spiritual qi was becoming slower and slower, as if it had completely stopped growing. At the same time, his entire body was swollen with pain, and his brain felt as if it was suddenly stuffed with a big ball of cotton, bulging so much that it seemed like a hole would be formed if he pressed it. At this moment, the art of unlocking heaven's fortune within his meridians suddenly stopped circulating, and became completely motionless. No matter how he urged his internal energy, he was unable to move the art of unlocking heaven's fortune, not even by a little bit. What was going on? Jun Moxie frowned in puzzlement, and was about to use his inner vision to check his current situation, when suddenly, without warning, boom. Chapter 554. Jun Moxie was indescribably shocked. Suddenly, a similar explosion occurred in his mind, bang. Blood spurted out from Jun Moxie's mouth and nose at the same time. His meridians also felt an intense pain, as if they had been shattered into millions of pieces. Could it be that I've become a cripple? Before Jun Moxie had the time to be pessimistic, he discovered that his meridians were clearly still fine. Just as he was feeling puzzled, he suddenly discovered that a faint golden mist had appeared in his meridians. Then, this faint golden mist became thicker and thicker, and gradually blocked the flow of his meridians. Another boom sound rang out, and Jun Moxie cried out in dizziness. He hurriedly used his internal energy to look inside his body, and discovered that the faint golden mist that had appeared in his meridians had suddenly dispersed without a trace. Instead, it had been replaced by a thin golden thread. It was like a golden stream of water was joyfully swimming in his meridians. Jun Moxie could clearly feel that this golden stream of water contained an abnormally large amount of energy. Compared to his previous level, it was completely incomparable. If the original third layer of silver spiritual energy could be said to be able to lift 100 jin, then the current golden thread could lift a small hill. At the very least, it could lift a ton, or even 10 tons. This was simply an earth-shattering and terrifying transformation. Could it be that I've broken through again? This thought had just flashed through Jun Moxie's mind, and suddenly, there was an earth-shaking turbulence in his mind. He could only feel a pu sound in front of his forehead, as if something had broken. Of course, Jun Moxie did not know that this clear sound was the sound of the strange pagoda that had been formed by the heaven and earth's spiritual energy on his forehead. It had suddenly exploded into a colorful stream of air, and had entered his head through his Baihui acupoint. Then, Jun Moxie felt the entire Hongjun pagoda shake and rumble, as if there was an earthquake. He was originally lying on the ground, but now he was thrown up high. Fortunately, his face was facing upwards. If his face was facing downwards, then he would have been intimately in contact with the earth, even though he was inside the Hongjun pagoda. Fuck me. Jun Mo Xia managed to turn around in the midst of the chaos, and managed to avoid falling flat on his face. He muttered in his heart, "What's going on?" Just as he opened his eyes, his gaze suddenly froze and his mouth fell open, unable to say a word. About 10 zhang in front of him, there was originally an empty pagoda wall, but now it had disappeared, and in its place was a door. A 7-colored door opened wide. The 4th level of the Hongjun pagoda. And at that very moment, breakthrough. Holy shit! If I can break through by risking my life once, isn't this forcing me to risk my life more? Jun Moxie was dumbfounded. Only by risking your life can you break through. It was like that last time, and it's actually the same this time. Is life that fun? Thinking of this, Jun Moxie could not help but blurt out, "How can I have so many lives to play with? If I do it again, I'll have to end my own life. It's too painful." Although he said that, Jun Moxie also knew that breaking through was not something that could be achieved by risking his life. After breaking through, even if he risked his life 1,000 times, he might not be able to achieve the next breakthrough so quickly. In this period of time, Jun Moxie had already built a stable foundation for his breakthrough. From the time that Jun Moxie broke through to the 3rd level of Tian Nan, it was only a little more than 3 months. But this was the slowest breakthrough that he had made since his rebirth. Although the higher the level of Xian cultivation, the slower the breakthrough would be. But although Jun Moxie's breakthrough was unexpected, it was still within reason. Previously, when he was refining pills, he had unintentionally broken through the Tian Xian level and suddenly advanced to the Xin Xian level. At first, Jun Moxie thought that he had broken through to the 4th level of the art of unlocking heaven's fortune. But after careful investigation, he found out that this was not the case. But from then on, Jun Moxie knew that although he had not yet broken through, he was already on the verge of breaking through at any time. Everything was just a matter of luck. Originally, he thought that the breakthrough would take a period of time. But this time, Jun Moxie was risking his life. It was too dangerous. Jun Moxie was the host of the Hongjun pagoda. How could the Hongjun pagoda allow him to play with his life? It must be known that the Hongjun pagoda was currently residing in Jun Moxie's body. The two of them were already inseparable. Although their abilities could not be transferred easily, they were truly bound together. If Jun Moxie really died, then the Hongjun pagoda would have no choice but to follow him into reincarnation, so at the most crucial moment, the Hongjun pagoda finally displayed its divine might. It dragged this fellow back in at the last moment when his soul was about to scatter, and helplessly carried out a super repair. But this brat was still not satisfied. Taking advantage of the fact that his meridians were empty, he actually began to risk his life again, risking his life to absorb spiritual energy. And it was done unconsciously. This was even more helpless. Could it be that this fellow was going to self-destruct again so soon after he was pulled back from the brink of explosion? Fortunately, Jun Dashao's luck was great. He was not cultivating in the outside world, but directly inside the Hongjun pagoda. So, when the spiritual energy in his body self-destructed, the Hongjun pagoda naturally compressed it back. This compression directly led to a qualitative change. Therefore, this breakthrough was both reasonable and unexpected at the same time. It was really a coincidence of opportunity. The right time, the right place, and the right people could not be missing. It was extremely rare. If the Hongjun Pagoda could hear Jun Moxie's words. Risking my life once and I can break through. Looks like I have to risk my life more. No matter how strong his foundation was, he would probably spit out a mouthful of blood in grief and indignation. This fellow really doesn't know how to love himself. Other than risking his life, what else can you fucking play with? Kid, are you playing with your own life? You're simply playing with this pagoda. Which of the previous masters did not treat their own bodies as treasured rafts to cross the world? Treasured incomparably. They were afraid of even the slightest injury. Why is it that after following this fellow, I have to be on tenterhooks every day? I've never seen anyone more willing to risk their life than this fellow. He's not even a silver Xian, and he dares to provoke Yu Xian. He's just a gold Xian, and he dares to provoke Tian Xian. He's finally climbed to Yu Xian's level with great difficulty, and he dares to challenge Xin Xian as an equal. He even wants to kill Xin Xian. It would be good if he didn't provoke trouble, but if he did, he would offend the Silver Blizzard City and Shuehun Manor. After the trip to Tiannan, he'd finally managed to raise his cultivation to Tian Xian's level. His actions had once again escalated, and he had directly started to fight against the great masters. Let's not talk about the past for now. Just a few days ago, he had just risen to the Spirit Xian realm, and the most awesome operation in history had begun. He had directly challenged 30 people above the supreme level, and 60 of them were at the supreme level. That was a total of 90 peak experts. Such a large group of people had come to kill him. If the Hongjun Pagoda could sweat under such a situation, it would probably shudder at Jun Moxie's boldness. Sweat, big sweat, waterfall sweat, Genghis Khan. Along the way, he'd been challenging those at higher levels. Moreover, he hadn't only skipped 1 or 2 levels, but had directly skipped 4, 5, 7, and 8 levels. It was basically no different from challenging those at higher levels. This fellow really doesn't know life from death. This was a good comparison. A person who just started cultivating, and hadn't even built a good foundation, was provoking powerful people at the Spirit Severing stage, Void Opening stage, Ascension stage, and Great Ascension stage every day. This was simply putting one's head on one's belt every day, as if one's life didn't belong to oneself, but to some bitter enemy. Even if this motherfucker intended to frame me, it can't be so accurate every time. If it wasn't for my help, you would have already reincarnated dozens of times by now. And now you're saying, as long as you play with your life, you can break through. If I could move, I would have spat on your face immediately. It's not that I haven't seen shameless people, but it's rare to see someone as shameless as you. How would Jun Moxie and Jun Dashao know about this? He happily strode forward, sighing that he'd gained a blessing in disguise. He shook his head and shook his buttocks as he entered the 4th level of the Hongjun Pagoda. This posture was like a poor farmer carrying a big bag into the country's treasury. The expression on his face was, "I'm going to be rich." In fact, that was the case. With such intense excitement, Jun Dashao had completely forgotten that he was still naked. This caused his current posture to be a little comical. He was swaying in front, twisting and turning at the back, and his face had an extremely infuriating expression. It was really too despicable. Actually, even if he really remembered, the current Jun Dashao might not care much about it. After all, he was the only one here. Besides, with Jun Dashao's super thick skin, even if there was really someone else, he would still sway like this. It's just a stinky skin. Dashao snorted. This guy was a typical case of forgetting the pain once the scar healed. He had just recovered and broken through, but he immediately threw the previous dangerous situation to the back of his mind. His eyes shone with a greedy golden light, and his face was filled with the most lascivious smile. He raised his long spear and walked in proudly. Once he entered, Jun Moxie felt that something was different. This place seemed to be very different from the previous 3 levels. The entire 4th level was a chaotic world. Spiritual chi filled the air, and it was as if it was a solid substance. Some of it even hit Jun Moxie's body. Jun Dashao could even feel the force of the impact. How pure must the spiritual qi be to be able to create such a scene in front of him? And that was not all. There were also red flames, green water, and black floating in the air. In short, there were many messy things. Jun Mo Xia was startled. He hadn't expected to see such a situation on the 4th floor. He didn't even have time to think about it. Suddenly, a rainbow light flashed in front of him, and a few inexplicable chants appeared in his mind. Chapter 555. Jun Moxie only felt a stabbing pain in his mind, and his consciousness became blurry. In a daze, he suddenly understood that the 4th level of the art of unlocking heaven's fortune had already entered his mind. This wasn't rare. After all, the first few levels of the mantra were also learned in this way, but in the next moment, Jun Dashao's naked body seemed to have become a bottomless pit in an instant, and suddenly emitted a terrifying and irresistible suction force. All the unstable elements in the 4th level, without exception, abruptly became orderly at this moment. Starting with the green energy, it rapidly drilled into Jun Dashao's body, then red, then black. At the same time, it absorbed the violent and almost tangible pure spiritual energy. Jun Mo Xia could clearly feel that his meridians were like a boundless ocean, crazily absorbing all kinds of energy and spiritual qi. These energies disappeared as soon as they entered his body. Only the spiritual qi was getting thicker and thicker, and was crazily rushing into his body. In fact, it was like an avalanche, and 100 rivers were converging into one another. With the meridians in his body filled up, they naturally and rapidly strengthened. His dantian also seemed to be propped up by the rapidly expanding golden current. Slowly, the golden spiritual energy in Jun Moxie's body once again filled his dantian, and this time, it was no longer a gas, but a substance, an abnormally solid substance. After an unknown amount of time had passed, finally, the moment the spiritual energy in his meridians stopped circulating, the surging spiritual energy in the 4th level had actually been completely absorbed. New spiritual energy rushed in crazily, slowly filling up the 4th level, but it was already calm. But Jun Moxie's body could no longer absorb it on its own. Even if he deliberately circulated his qi to absorb it, there would be no effect. This was because his body was already completely saturated. In silence, Jun Moxie's full dantian suddenly began to slowly rotate. This time, it was compressed, extremely compressed. The condensed golden spiritual energy became smaller and smaller, and a large amount of spiritual energy in his meridians was once again sucked in bit by bit, accelerating the compression in his dantian. Finally, the golden spiritual energy gradually condensed into a golden bead the size of a baby's fist. It was still rotating at a terrifying speed, crazily absorbing spiritual energy. Suddenly, at the moment when it was rotating at its fastest speed, it unexpectedly stopped without warning. Immediately after, Jun Moxie felt his whole body tighten, and an indescribable strange feeling suddenly emerged. On the top of his head, an extremely cool and clear stream of spiritual energy flowed down from the Baihui acupoint, all the way down along the Ren meridian, like a hot knife through butter, all the way to the feet, and a warm stream of energy rushed up the Yongquan acupoint on the soles of the feet, going against the governing meridian upwards, all the way to the Baihui acupoint. His body shook violently, and the two streams of spiritual energy, one cold and one hot, suddenly collided at the intersection of the governing and conception meridians. Jun Moxie let out a miserable groan, and felt as if a mysterious door had been opened inside his body. The two streams of energy, one cold and one hot, quickly blended together, and in a split second, there was no distinction between them. His whole body instantly felt warm, and it was actually very pleasing. At the same time, the golden bead that had just condensed into a solid substance in his dantian suddenly shattered without a sound. Jun Moxie focused on his internal vision, and couldn't help but be shocked. What is this thing? In Jun Moxie's dantian, a baby the size of a baby's fist suddenly appeared. It was pink all over, with 4 limbs and facial features, eyebrows, eyes, and pink and tender. It was very pleasing, and it was sitting upright with its eyes closed. It seemed to even be breathing. Damn! I'm actually pregnant. June Moxie cried in surprise, and only felt that all the hair on his body stood up. Pregnancy without sex, cake seller, the second Jesus is about to be born. This idiot cultivator, he actually thought that a cultivator's nascent soul was pregnant. Once again, his IQ really had no lower limit. At this moment, June Moxie felt an inexplicable flash of golden light in front of him, and he didn't know why, but there was another large piece of densely packed text. June Moxie was overjoyed. It seemed that the harvest this time was really not small. He calmed himself down and finished reading in one breath, and couldn't help but become darker and darker. In the end, he couldn't help but scold, "Damn, you could have just said 4 words, this is immortal cultivation, and that would have been it. You actually wrote tens of thousands of words. Do you think I'm an idiot?" Little did he know, if not for this text, he would really be more of an idiot than an idiot. It seemed that this extra harvest was probably because the Hungjun Pagoda really couldn't stand it anymore, and simply gave him an enlightenment in immortal cultivation, as a pity for Xiao Bai. Well, it really wasn't much different from a children's book, other than an introduction. It's just an introduction. Why isn't there anything more practical? June Dashao muttered and complained. Just teach me how to destroy the world. It'd be best if it's the legendary electric eye technique. If I see a pretty girl with a good temperament, I'll just stare at her, and then that girl will pester me and fall in love with me, and won't marry anyone but me. How cool would that be, he he he. June Dashao's fantasies reached the end, and he started laughing lewdly to himself. After a round of fantasies, June Dashao officially began to check the specific harvest this time. Yes, it was really abundant. The power of water, fire, and earth. At the same time, a rather short and concise incantation appeared in his mind. Metal and wood are the foundation, water and fire are the same source, thick earth is the virtue, it is the 5 elements, the power of the 5 elements overturns heaven and earth, and in the end, returns to chaos. After taking a look, June Moxie seemed to understand, but he didn't. However, there was one thing that June Moxie seemed to understand very clearly. This time, he's rich. He's really rich. He had been in contact with the power of the 5 elements since the 3rd level, and he finally gathered all of them here. All of the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. If these powers of water and fire were as strong as the power of metal, it would be hard for him not to use them. If any trash from the 3 holy lands dared to say anything, he would directly break their legs. After carefully sensing the specific power in his body, June Moxie clearly felt that there was an obvious difference. The current him, according to the classification of the strength of a profound practitioner, was no longer an ordinary Shinxian strength. After breaking through, he had actually achieved the strength of a supreme martial artist, and it had directly surpassed the 5th level of Shinxian. This was the so-called 1st level of the supreme martial artist realm. But as for which stage he had reached, after all, there was no comparison, so June Moxie also had no clue. But now, June Moxie started to have a headache about another matter. Because now, he finally knew that what he was cultivating was the purest and most superior cultivation method. Then, it was almost certain that he would be immortal in the future. Then, if that was really the case, what would happen to his family? He couldn't possibly wait for tens or hundreds of years, when all his family members had died one by one, and the peerless beauties had all turned into skeletons, leaving him alone to live forever. Fuck. Was that cultivation or torture? Parting in life and death, just 1.5 people was already unbearable, not to mention being the only one left in the end? Could it be that he had to go through a cycle of parting in life and death? His ancestors lived for 800 years, and his descendants had dozens of generations. Their bloodlines came from the same source, and they met each other but didn't know each other. That wouldn't do. He had to change this situation that was very likely to happen. June Moxie rolled his eyes, seriously considering this matter. This matter was really not a small matter, and he definitely couldn't make a rash decision. But, what should he do? June Dashao was naked, and he was in a daze inside the Hungjun pagoda, thinking of a solution. Meanwhile, the outside world was in chaos because of him, because Jun Moxie had gone missing for 3 days and 3 nights. This missing period of time was a little too long, especially after the previous major incident, causing people to be even more anxious. In the end, even Jun Wui, who had always been full of confidence in Jun Moxie, was extremely anxious. Although Grandpa Jun looked calm on the surface, his heart was already burning with anxiety. His only grandson's whereabouts were unknown. What should he do? Could it be that he had been captured by the people from the 3 Holy Lands? Mei Xuan had only meditated for 1 night, and her injuries had yet to fully recover. She had already gone out to look for Jun Moxie's whereabouts. Although she was 80% sure that Jun Moxie must have suffered a huge backlash, and was currently hiding somewhere to recuperate, or perhaps, he had already been turned into ashes. But, she still held on to that one last hope, and found the gathering place of the 3 Holy Lands, and closely monitored them. She only hoped that she would be able to find traces of Jun Moxie here. Although the results were not good, at least he was still alive. With her peerless Qing Gong, she naturally did not have to worry about being discovered. As the days passed, Mei Xuan's heart grew more and more desperate. That tyrannical and almost explosive emotion became more and more uncontrollable, and the desire to kill in her heart grew more and more intense. Right now, even when she looked at the ordinary citizens of Tianxiang City, her eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. This was a crazy thought that could not wait to destroy the entire world. All this while, Mei Xuan had always regarded the war for seizing the heavens as her responsibility. She had concentrated on her cultivation, waiting for the completion of her mission. Even if the battlefield was dyed with blood, she felt that she had no regrets. In fact, it was a kind of glory. The greatest glory of the Tianfa forest that had been passed down since ancient times. In her heart, there had never been any other thoughts. As for the love affair between a man and a woman, she had always treated it as a joke, or even a myth. Mei Xuan had never believed that there was anyone in this world who could move her heart. Mei Xuan was an extremely stubborn person. This could be seen from the fact that even when she was being hunted and framed, she still persisted in her beliefs. At the same time, she was also a proud woman who thought highly of herself. Chapter 556. Even though no one has seen my elegant demeanor. That's only natural, it's how it should be. How can ordinary people be worthy of seeing my peerless figure? If they see it, it will be blasphemy to me. Even great master Shen Xian is just a person who fights for power and profit. He's just a petty thief. I, Mei Xuan, am such a person. How can I be associated with such a person? The plum blossoms in the snow proudly hold the mist. How many times do I move unhindered in the world? The heroes of the ages are all like this. Walking alone, carefree and unrestrained. She's like the bright moon in the 9th heaven. She's peerless and virtuous. Even the stars in the sky will feel ashamed of their inferiority when she appears. Not a single star dares to appear next to her. She indifferently looks at the vicissitudes of life. She indifferently performs her duty. She's been as calm as still water for many years. She's never been angry. Even when she was seriously injured and being chased, Mei Xuan was able to deal with it with indifference. However, Jun Dashao had broken the tranquility of this proud and aloof woman. Moreover, he'd broken her tranquility in such a barbaric way. He'd used such an obscene and vile method to wantonly desecrate Mei Xuan's pure and clean body. Although she was in the body of a small Xian beast at that time, Mei Xuan still felt an intense anger. And a great humiliation. A great humiliation. It was that time in the Tianfa forest. Jun Moxie hadn't even known about it. He'd successfully provoked all kinds of emotions in Mei Xuan's heart. Shame. She was so ashamed that she couldn't show her face. Anger. A majestic anger that seemed to burn everything in its path. Hatred. A hatred that gnashed her teeth. But there was nothing she could do. Mei Xueyan didn't know how to deal with June Moxie. No matter how angry or hateful she was, June Moxie had healed her meridians. It could be said that he'd done her a great favor. Moreover, June Moxie was obviously related to the mysterious person who had stolen the sacred fruit from him. However, the sacred fruit of Tianfa was related to the future of the entire Tianfa forest. So, Mei Xueyan had a new emotion, frustration. What should I do? Just let it go like that? Unreconciled, how could he be reconciled? But, kill? No. Cripple? No. Driven by this jealous and contradictory mentality, she followed June Moxie all the way to Tianxiang. The two of them met several times. Just when Mei Xueyan thought that she had successfully let go of this matter, and was planning to let go of June Moxie offended her again. Furthermore, he had offended her in a hostile situation. Most importantly, that was when she appeared in her human form. This enemy, he actually kissed me and then spanked my butt, this lecher. This made Mei Xueyan's heart palpitate even more. The contradictory feeling in her heart was getting more and more intense. The worries in her heart were also getting heavier and heavier. Later, when she arrived at the June family, she saw June Mo Xia working hard without showing his face for several days just to fulfill her request. Regardless of how those divine pills were refined, there was one thing she was sure of. If it wasn't for June Mo Xia, those divine pills definitely wouldn't exist. June Moxie was the key to everything. But, what kind of person was June Moxie? Mei Xueyan obviously understood this point. Not only did she understand it, but she also understood it very well. He was definitely an evil person, and definitely not a so-called gentleman. To put it bluntly, the war for seizing the heavens that she cared about the most was not even worth a fart in June Mo Xia's heart. The common people of the world had never been his object of consideration. He was by no means a noble person. But, he was a true and pure person. He was not the least bit hypocritical. He did what he wanted. He believed that his fate was not up to the heavens. No amount of gold could buy his will. He could destroy an evil organization for a girl he didn't know. He could also stand up for the people he cared about. He didn't hesitate to make the whole world his enemy. He could use the most bloody and cruel methods to eliminate a group of people with high prestige. He didn't care about their good or bad deeds or their past achievements. In this world, other than his own family, June Moxie didn't care about anyone. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't an ambitious person. He wasn't a gentleman. Because he was a lowly person. A lowly person who acted on his own will. June Moxie only cared about his own identity. He was a member of the June family. He was Jun Zhantian's grandson, Jun Wui's nephew, Dugu Xiaoyi's lover, Guan Qinghan's man, Tang Yuan's brother, and the pillar of the June family. June Moxie. This was June Moxie's identity. He didn't recognize himself as a citizen of the Tianxiang Empire. He didn't even see himself as a member of the world. I'm just me. I'm independent. I'm just me. I won't change for anyone or anything. I'll be cool when I want to. I'll be a rogue when I want to. I'll act tough when I want to. I'll pick up girls when I want to. I'll draw my sword when I want to kill. I'll curse when I want to. The world called him a debauchee. But, this was a real person. A person who indulged in his desires. He didn't care about the world's opinions. He looked at the world's slander with cold eyes. He didn't care about the future's evaluation. Go fuck yourself. All of you, get lost. Following his heart's desire, doing as he pleased, that was June Mo Xia. Why would such a person be so generous if he didn't have a special reason? Divine pills came one after another. Divine weapons were given without blinking. If he couldn't move his heart, who would be able to get a little benefit from June Moxie? So, as June Moxie gave more and more, Mei Xueyan's heart softened. She didn't do it for pills or divine weapons. She did it for June Moxie's red eyes every time he came. He couldn't hide his tiredness. It was all for him, for the moment he arrived. But June Moxie had never mentioned it. Every time he came, he would always make her laugh and make her happy. Even if she was embarrassed by him, she would still feel a heartfelt warmth in her heart. Because, Mei Shuiyan's heart could clearly feel that June Moxie didn't want her to worry about him. He didn't want her to worry about him. He didn't want her to worry about him. He only wanted to bear all the pain alone. Then, he would swallow it alone. He would chew it slowly and digest it. Then, he would face everyone in the world with a cynical look. Even though her strength was countless times stronger than his, he was still willing to shoulder the storm for her, to lift up the cloudy sky, and to hold up a clear sky for her. He made her face the decline of the Tian Fa forest and the oppression of the three holy lands. Suddenly, her heart was filled with hope for tomorrow. During this period of time, Mei Shuiyan had unknowingly gotten used to such happy days. Even though June Moxie was much weaker than her, he gave her a strong feeling. As long as he was here, she didn't need to worry about anything. She only needed to wait. Then, everything would be ready. Everything would be fine. Unknowingly, as they interacted with each other, even Mei Shuiyan didn't know that June Moxie, this young man, had become the only person she could rely on in this life. As the days passed, Mei Shuiyan had gotten used to June Moxie's existence. She was used to having June Moxie make the decisions. She was used to showing her rare girly side in front of him. She was used to his teasing, his cynicism, his voice and aura. She was even more used to him as a person. At that time, June Moxie was always hanging around her. Mei Shuiyan didn't realize what was going on, until now, June Moxie had disappeared. She had personally seen him disappear without a trace. At this time, Mei Shuiyan finally felt a heart-wrenching pain in her heart. This feeling came so suddenly, and it hurt so much. At that moment, when she heard that tiny moan, Mei Shuiyan felt as if her heart had been hammered by a 10,000-pound hammer. Looking at the sudden explosion on June Moxie's body, Mei Shuiyan felt as if all her internal organs were on fire. It was all for me. It was all for me. Mei Shuiyan finally shed tears for the first time in her life. For the first time in her life, she could clearly feel the saltiness of her tears. The feeling of her heart being broken was overwhelming. Guilt, self-blame, desperation, and despair flooded Mei Shuiyan's consciousness like a tide. If I didn't come to the June family, if I didn't force him to refine pills, if I didn't show off in the aristocratic hall, if I didn't expose my identity, why would the three holy lands send such a strong force? 30 superior great masters, 60 great masters. A total of 90 peak experts. What kind of lineup is this? Moreover, the purpose of their arrival was very clear. They had come to deal with Tian Fa's people. But, he had appeared the moment I couldn't hold on any longer, and he had saved me. He wouldn't have forced himself to kill a superior great master if I hadn't vowed to kill half-bodied. He had risked his life to fulfill my vow. Half-bodied was finished, but he had also disappeared. June Moxie had disappeared, and Mei Shuiyan had finally understood her own heart. But, it was too late. Was it too late? Was it really too late? Mei Shuiyan cried for half the night that very night, which was a rare occurrence. She shed tears in silence, and her heart was broken in silence. She suddenly felt that there was no longer that familiar aura, that comforting warmth, that glib-tongued teasing, that frivolous appearance, and the most important thing, was that she had lost that heartfelt sense of security. She had lost that silent expectation. She had lost that bashful hope. She had lost everything. The world had lost its splendor. Mei Shuiyan suddenly realized that she couldn't live without this man. The entire world would become lifeless without him. It wouldn't have any interest in living. The three holy lands are nothing in comparison to him. The war for seizing the heavens is nothing in comparison to him. Even the common people of the world and the future of the continent are nothing in comparison. What does all of this have to do with me? Chapter 557. The fourth update. The title was wrong, it should have been 175, but it was written 174, depressing. If he dies, even if I become number one in the world, what can I do? Even if I win the war for seizing the heavens, what can I do? There are so many people who should have died in this world, why can't he live? On what basis? Those who should have died didn't die, those who shouldn't have disappeared disappeared, those who are still alive, are you all worthy? On what basis do you want me, Mei Shuyan, to fight for you? To fight for you. And then you plot against me behind my back. To hurt me again and again. The people I care about are all gone, why should I care about you all? Who will care about us? 3 holy lands, you are so vicious, so merciless, I, Mei Shuyan, swear that I will destroy you all. I will take revenge for this even if all the Xian beasts in the entire Tian Fa forest are wiped out. For all eternity, I will not rest until I die. 3 days had passed, and Mei Shuyan had fallen into despair. In these 3 days of observation, from the conversations of the 3 holy lands, it was clear that they had no intention of capturing Jun Moxie. In fact, they didn't even have any intention of doing so. Then, it was easy to explain that the person who exploded in the courtyard was Jun Moxie. Such a strong explosion, even if Mei Shuyan was at her peak, she would not have been able to survive. If it was Jun Moxie's small body, there was no need to even think about it. Mei Shuyan returned to the elegant fragrance courtyard in the evening. Her face was cold, and her entire body was emitting a murderous aura. In fact, she had a tyrannical and awe-inspiring mood. In fact, she looked like a demon walking over from afar. The Snake King stretched her head out, and then shrank back in fear. Mei Shuyan had already made up her mind. If there was still no news tonight, then tomorrow morning, she and Qian Sun Serpent Queen would return to the Tian Fa forest. Then, in the shortest time possible, she would unite all the Xian beasts from Tian Nan to Hai Bei, and then launch an all-out attack on the 3 holy lands. A relentless attack. Although the 3 holy lands were strong and had a deep foundation, they did not have a lot of people, a few thousand people would be enough. But there were billions of Xian beasts in the world. Even if Mei Shuyan did not use high-level Xian beasts and only used low-level Xian beasts, she would be able to flatten the 3 holy lands. For example, low-grade beehives, snake hordes, ant hordes, wolf hordes. Just these alone, every swarm had a terrifying number of billions of them. Such things could be found anywhere in the world, and they could even be found locally. It would definitely be enough to give the 3 holy lands a hard time. Not to mention the monkeys, tigers, bears, apes, lions, and other large animals. Not to mention the cranes, eagles, and condors in the air. Based on the current situation, the 3 holy lands were much stronger than the Tian Fa forest, but in terms of numbers and strength, they were not on the same level. Mei Shuyan did not have the confidence to defeat the 3 holy lands with her own strength, but she had the confidence to destroy the 3 holy lands. That was the reason. And this was also the main reason why the 3 holy lands had to get rid of the Tian Fa forest. Mei Shuyan slowly arrived at the entrance of the elegant fragrance hut and walked in lightly. It was an unusually familiar place, an unusually familiar facility, and an unusually familiar smell. Mei Shuyan stood in the courtyard in a daze and felt that her mind had suddenly gone blank. She was actually so afraid to return to this courtyard. Because this courtyard had his scent, the scent that broke her heart, the scent that she could not bear to look back, but she longed to return to this courtyard so much. At the same time, because this courtyard had his unique scent, it made her linger back and forth, yearning for it. She stood there in a daze. That feeling of weakness that she hadn't felt for so many years once again assaulted her. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her heart, and tears filled her eyes. She muttered, "After today, I'm going to leave, I'm really going to leave." If I can't trample the 3 holy lands to the ground for you, I might never come back. Don't be lonely, wait for me to avenge you, and I'll accompany you. Mo-sia, Mo-sia. This was the first time she called out this affectionate nickname. Mei Shuyan's heart turned sour, and her tears fell like rain again. He couldn't hear it anymore. This feeling could be remembered, but she was already lost at that time. Why? Why did she have to wait until she lost him to understand that her heart could not be without him? This beautiful lady. Why are you calling out this young master's name so affectionately? This big brother is very thin-skinned. Hearing you call me like that, half of my body has gone limp. It's really hard to accept a beauty's kindness. Forget it, this young master will force himself to let you marry her. Suddenly, a voice abruptly rang out. It had the usual glib and cynical tone, and there was a hint of evil in its tone. Anyone who heard it would know that it was an out-and-out, hedonistic, and playboy type of person. Mei Shuyan's body shook, and she suddenly felt the world spinning around her. Her body swayed unnaturally, and she slowly turned around in disbelief. She was afraid that if she turned around too fast, this voice would suddenly disappear like a phantom. Even if this was a dream, she wanted to wake up from this dream as late as possible. It would be best if she didn't wake up at all. All the trees were silent, waiting for the rain to fall. No matter how slowly she turned around, there would eventually be an end. Mei Shuyan finally turned around and looked over with tears in her eyes. A hateful smiling face was swaying in front of her eyes, slowly becoming clearer. Jun Moxie's handsome face was looking at her with a strange expression. Mei Shuyan was stunned, completely stunned. She couldn't help but use the back of her hand to wipe her tears, and then rubbed her eyes. A strong person like her actually showed such a clumsy behavior of not trusting her own eyes. It could be seen that this matter had a huge impact on her heart. Hey. Jun Moxie's face was full of smiles as he stretched out his hand and waved it in front of Mei Shuyan. He teased, "Wow, who is this beautiful lady who is crying like a kitten? Why don't I recognize her? Ah! So it's Lord Tian Fa's Beast King Venerable Mei. Am I dreaming? I really didn't expect Venerable Mei to have such a woman's side. If this is really a dream, then wake up later." What a beautiful and sad dream. Mei Shuyan was startled when she heard this. She looked at Jun Dashao in a daze, and finally couldn't help but burst into laughter. Her smile had just bloomed when it disappeared. Her mouth flattened, and she let out a cry. Tears flowed down her face, and she suddenly rushed into Jun Moxie's embrace. She hugged him tightly, as if she wanted to melt her body into his. Her body trembled. After a long time, she finally stood up from Jun Moxie's embrace. She carefully looked at Jun Moxie's strange face, and finally confirmed that the person in front of her was a living person. Suddenly, the emotions that she had accumulated for the past few days exploded out. Her small fists pounded on his chest like crazy. She didn't care about her image as she cried, "You bastard, you bastard, you bastard. I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death. You scared me to death. Boo-hoo." After pounding on him for a while, she suddenly hugged him with all her might again. It was as if she had suddenly regained an extremely important treasure, and couldn't bear to let go of it. Jun Moxie naturally didn't know that he had already let the cat out of the bag. He was still feeling very strange in his heart. Why is Mei Shuyan so emotional today? Why is her mood so abnormal? What's going on? Could it be that my cultivation has improved greatly, and even my character has improved greatly? For such a beauty to throw herself into my arms, and even pounce on me, isn't this a little too much? But with a beauty taking the initiative to throw herself into his arms, it would be a waste not to hug her. Even if he hugged her, it would still be a waste to hug her. Such a ready-made advantage that was delivered to his doorstep, it wouldn't be too much even if he had 8 or 10 of them every day. How could he not take advantage of it? But June Moxie immediately dispelled this thought. Because, he could feel the delicate body of the beauty in his arms trembling uncontrollably. It was obviously a sign of extreme fear. Just what had happened to cause the number one person of Tian Fa to be in such a panic? June Moxie's mind was spinning rapidly. No matter how he looked at it, he shouldn't be behaving like this. In the room, Guan Qinghan and Qian Sun Serpent Queen immediately rushed out. These few days, the two of them were also extremely anxious. They weren't any less anxious than Mei Xuan. Now that they saw June Moxie suddenly appear, the two of them suddenly had an urge to rush into his arms and hug him tightly. But the moment they came out, they saw the two of them hugging so tightly in the courtyard. A strange look flashed in the eyes of the two girls. They stood quietly at a distance, looking at the two people hugging each other. They felt an indescribable feeling in their hearts. There was sadness, gratification, happiness, and disappointment. Guan Qinghan let out a silent sigh. Her eyelids drooped, and she quietly took 2 steps back. After an unknown amount of time, Mei Xuan finally calmed her emotions. She immediately knew that something was wrong. She hurriedly left June Moxie's embrace and looked at him longingly. Only then did she return to her previous icy state. She was graceful and magnanimous. But the tear stains on her face and her red eyes looked a little out of place. Mei Xuan forced herself to be dignified. Her face was still red and white. She felt extremely embarrassed for her behavior. She forced a straight face and asked with a frown, "What have you been doing these few days? You didn't even greet us. Don't you know that everyone is worried about you? You. How can you be so irresponsible? How can you not care about the bigger picture? How can you be so selfish? How can you be so n?" The last "n" he uttered was heavy and full of majesty. June Moxie scratched his head. His face was full of curiosity. He stretched out his hand to touch Mei Xuan's forehead. He asked suspiciously, "Mei, you don't have a fever, do you?" Mei Xuan immediately became angry. She slapped his hand to the side and said sternly, "Speak. Where did you go?" June Moxie's face turned bitter. He had just come from Grandpa June and the third uncle's place. He had already been interrogated twice. He did not expect to be interrogated a third time. Am I going to be a criminal today? What an unlucky year. June Moxie had no choice but to use the same excuse he had told her twice. Little did he know that the person in front of him already knew his background. Mei Xuan did not intend to do anything. Where did June Moxie go these few days? Was there a need to ask? He must be recuperating. The reason why Mei Xuan had asked this question was because she felt embarrassed to find a way out of this embarrassing situation. As for how June Moxie would answer, it was not important to her at all. The important thing was that he was still alive. That was more than enough. If he was not around, the world would be buried with him. Chapter 558. She could clearly feel the chaotic aura of nature on June Moxie's body, and she could hear June Moxie's voice. Mei Xuan was 100% sure that this guy in front of her was the mysterious black-robed man. However, Mei Xuan didn't intend to expose him. She would just take it as a secret that both of them were aware of. Besides, she could also enjoy June Moxie's performance every day. It doesn't seem too bad. It doesn't matter whether it's him or not. Nothing matters, nothing matters. He's fine, that's the most important thing. June Moxie saw that Mei Xuan's emotions had finally recovered, and he felt relieved. He turned around and walked towards Guan Qinghan. Guan Qinghan saw that he was walking towards her, and there was a hint of shyness in her eyes, but there was also a hint of gratification. She slowly lowered her head, bit her lips, and remained silent. "Are you also worried about me?" Guan Qinghan could be considered tall among the women. Among all the women that June Moxie knew, only Mei Shuyan was slightly taller than her. The others such as Raimu, Dugu Xiaoyi, Han Yan Meng, Sun Xiaomei, and Qian Sun Serpent Queen were slightly shorter than her. However, Jun Moxie was standing in front of her, and he was more than half a head taller than her. Guan Qinghan forced a smile, and was about to raise her head when she suddenly felt a pair of big hands embracing her. Jun Moxie's voice came into her ears, and it was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. "Don't worry, your man's life is very long. A cat only has 9 lives, and I have 81. Guan Qinghan felt her body go soft. She could feel the warmth of his body and the strong manly scent. Hearing him call himself her man, her heart was beating like a deer, and she couldn't help but blush. But this time, she didn't struggle at all. She just quietly leaned in his arms. Guan Qinghan really didn't want to struggle against her will anymore. These days, Mei Shuyan was on the verge of exploding, and Guan Qinghan was also on the verge of breaking down. Now that she could hear his heartbeat through his clothes, it was truly a great blessing. Suddenly, all the grievances in her heart vanished like smoke in thin air. No matter what, it was all worth it. Come to think of it, Jun Dashao had been constantly teasing Mei Shuyan in front of her, and teasing Guan Qinghan in front of Mei Shuyan. Perhaps it was the so-called habit, but the two women seemed to have accepted each other's existence. Although they couldn't help but feel a little jealous in their hearts, the two women knew Jun Moxie's feelings. Besides, in this era of male supremacy, it wasn't a big deal for a man to have 3 or 4 wives. On the contrary, it was rare for a man to have only one wife. Even the most gentlemanly of Taoists wouldn't get entangled in this matter. Jun Mo Xia was almost 18 years old, but he still didn't have a concubine by his side. This was a very rare occurrence. At the very least, he was the only one in the entire Tianxiang city's aristocratic family. There were even some who were younger than Jun Moxie by 2 or 3 years, but already had a large number of wives and concubines. They hugged silently for a while, and both of them felt a kind of heartfelt warmth flowing quietly between them. It was a kind of happiness where silence was better than words. After a long time, Guan Qinghan finally lifted her head from his embrace. Her face was as red as the morning sun, and her eyes were evasive. Her cold demeanor had long disappeared, and at this moment, she seemed like a shy and timid wife. Mei Shuyan's anxiety these past few days had been seen by Guan Qinghan. She clearly knew that Mei Shuyan was anxious and worried about Jun Moxie's disappearance. Although Guan Qinghan didn't know what had happened, but from Mei Shuyan's attitude, Guan Qinghan could see that it was no small matter. Could it be that Jun Moxie had encountered some danger that he couldn't get through? Otherwise, why would Mei Shuyan, who had such a superb mysterious art, be so anxious? Therefore, Guan Qinghan had been very worried for the past few days. Seeing that Mei Shuyan seemed to be getting more and more desperate by the day, Guan Qinghan also seemed to feel that perhaps an extremely important thing was really getting further and further away from her. Now that she saw Jun Moxie alive and well, Guan Qinghan also felt an inexplicable joy, as if she had found something that she had lost. Therefore, even with Guan Qinghan's cold demeanor, she didn't try to hide her feelings at this moment. It was because the momentary joy had covered all the hypocrisy on her face. Of course, once she regained her rationality, Guan Qinghan also returned to her cold demeanor, and she wouldn't be in Jun Dashao's embrace anymore. Jun Moxie looked at this, then looked at that, and was somewhat puzzled. What's the matter with these two women? Why are they turning hostile like flipping a book? Moreover, one is more excessive than the other. I've felt their passion a moment ago. I've secretly rejoiced in my heart that my luck has finally taken a turn for the better. My luck has finally taken a turn for the better. I've been so excited that I've finally had the opportunity to enjoy myself for a long time. But now, their faces have suddenly changed. They've returned to their previous state. Oh my God, this life's great joy and great sorrow changed so quickly. This is killing me. Could it be that I was actually dreaming? Rubbing his face hard, Jun Moxie confirmed that everything in front of him was real. He couldn't help but mutter, Ah, women are really a kind of incomprehensible animal. One moment it's sunny, the next moment it's rainy. Just a moment ago, they were still showing their true feelings, and now they're turning hostile. It really tests a man's heart. It's hard to be a person, but it's even harder to be a man, and it's even harder to be a common man. June Moxie sighed with a bit of hidden bitterness. Hello, little Qian Sun, come hug your big brother, and comfort your big brother's fragile heart that has been ravaged several times. June Moxie simply changed his target since the two beauties were no longer interested in him. He smiled and said, it would be a pleasant surprise if he could reap some harvest. Humph. Snake King glared at him with an ominous glint in his eyes. He had already hidden his little thoughts, and pretended to be fierce as he coldly snorted and said, what do you want to do? Do I know you that well? June Moxie smiled, and moved closer. Qian Sun bluntly turned her wrist, and shook it. Then, two snakes scuttled over with a whoosh sound. June Moxie easily dodged them in a flustered manner. He shouted and continued to smile mischievously, crap. How can you be so ruthless? Where did you get these things in the middle of winter? They're good stuff. Do you have more? Give me a few more, and I'll stew them tonight. It doesn't matter if it's more ruthless, I appreciate your kindness. Qian Sun rolled her eyes, turned around, and went back in. Mei Xuan and Guan Qinghan also rolled their eyes at him, and went back into the house. In an instant, Jun Dashao stood alone outside, all alone, rubbing his nose. June Moxie rolled his eyes, and shamelessly followed them in. Although this fellow's strength had improved, there was still a long way to go before he reached the peak. But in terms of the thickness of his face, no one could compare to him. Super peak, there's one thing that I don't quite understand. June Moxie's face turned serious, and he looked at Mei Xuan. According to the lineup of the three holy lands this time, the strength of any one of them has already surpassed Tian Fa Forest. In fact, just based on the lineup this time, the combined strength of any one of these families would surpass the current strength of Tian Fa. Apart from you, the rest of Tian Fa, including the Snake King and the rest, are definitely not as strong as the people from the three holy lands. He paused for a while, and continued, in fact, it's not just a little bit inferior. From what I know, in Tian Fa Forest, only the 10 Beast Kings are strong in their human forms. The rest, even those level 9 Xian beasts, are only average in strength. Your original 1 ferocious and 3 saints, how did you calculate that? Just based on the rankings, it seems like your Tian Fa is slightly stronger. I really can't understand. Mei Xuan was silent for a while. Then, Lengleng said, your analysis of the strength of the strong is indeed correct. Unfortunately, you neglected something very important. Even if the three holy lands are all immortals, how many of them are there in total? But our Tian Fa Forest's Xian beasts number in the hundreds of millions. To put it bluntly, a single spit from a beast is enough to drown the three holy lands. How can the combined strength of Tian Fa's ferocious beasts be comparable to that of the three holy lands? I'm not neglecting this point. When the numbers reach a limit, it doesn't matter how strong the enemy is. Perhaps this is the original intention of the three holy lands to deal with Tian Fa. But I still find it very strange. Tian Fa's Xian beasts are talented and can be said to be blessed by the heavens. But compared to the three holy lands, why is there such a huge difference in their strength? June Moxie really could not understand this matter. Tian Fa has the reputation of being a dangerous place, and its reputation is even higher than the three holy lands. How can there be a lack of high-level strength? In the past war for seizing the heavens, the number of Xian beasts from Tian Fa was almost equal to the total number of the three holy lands. But in recent years, there have been some changes. Mei Xuan seemed to be extremely unwilling to talk about this matter. She bit her lips and said, actually, the ones who appear in front of the world today should not be the 10 great Xian beast kings. It should be the Supreme Xian Beast Kings from the previous generation. But, after something happened, the seniors all went into seclusion. The Tianfa forest cannot go without a Xian Beast King. So, we have no choice but to hold the fort. Mei Shuyan's words were very vague. She did not say anything specific. But, June Moxie already understood. So that's how it is. They are a generation apart. No wonder they look so strange. What happened in the Tianfa forest? What kind of big event has led to this situation? But, since Mei Shuyan did not want to say it clearly, June Moxie did not ask. Now, his attention had a new target. Why is your complexion so ugly? Are you injured? June Moxie naturally would not say that he saw it with his own eyes. But, judging from the battle that day, Mei Shuyan should not have been injured so badly. It's just an old injury that has not healed. It's not a big deal. Mei Shuyan said calmly. Oh, I see. June Moxie thought that this was reasonable. But, he did not notice that Mei Shuyan had directly told him the most basic reason, saving him the time to ask. Why didn't you look for me when you were injured? Brother, I am a divine doctor. June Moxie laughed loudly. This is just a small injury. It's a piece of cake for me. Brother, you will be cured immediately. June Moxie grabbed Mei Shuyan's hand and activated the art of unlocking heaven's fortune. Then, he probed, suddenly. Chapter 559. Looking at June Moxie in shock, Mei Shuyan's mind was in a mess. No wonder she felt something was wrong when she first saw him. But she was too excited at that time and didn't pay attention. Besides, 2 days ago, he was only at the beginning stage of Xinxian. After a few days, he became a supreme martial artist. Isn't this too much of a legend? But now, when Jun Dashao's pure vital energy flowed into his body, Mei Shuyan noticed it immediately. This guy, in just 3 days, jumped from the 2nd stage of Xinxian to the 6th stage of Xinxian. The 5th stage was the supreme martial artist. The 6th stage was the 2nd stage of the supreme martial artist. This power was at least stronger than the solitary eagle of the grassland. How long had it been since she first met June Moxie in the Tianfa forest? The first time they met, this guy's power was insignificant. He was just a small Yuxian. The second time they met, his progress was shocking. He was already at the level of Tian Xian. This kind of progress was already shocking to death. But after returning from Tian Nan, he broke through to the level of Xinxian a few days ago. This was a horrifying miracle. And the surprise didn't end. After not seeing him for a few days, he became a supreme martial artist again. What was this, a miracle among miracles? A miracle? Air. It was probably a coincidence. June Moxie said humbly. Besides, the skill I practice is not ordinary. Maybe it's different from yours. Mei Shuyan suppressed the shock in her heart and sat down slowly. Was it a coincidence? Maybe it was true. Great opportunities could only be obtained in a corresponding crisis. How could there be gains if there was no sacrifice? Crisis, crisis. Only when there was danger could there be an opportunity. It seemed that he had overused his secret technique and finally caused a backlash. After he was lucky enough to get through it, it was a blessing in disguise, right? Thinking of this, Mei Shuyan's gaze softened as she looked at June Moxie. She obediently allowed him to hold her hand and check on her injuries. She only felt a warm stream of air flowing into her body without any discomfort. She only felt that her internal organs were being ironed, and she actually felt a great sense of drowsiness in the midst of her drowsiness. June Moxie's expression became more and more solemn. Mei Shuyan's old injury, from his point of view, was actually quite troublesome. Actually, the injury wasn't a big problem, but the real problem was that there was a cold yin qi in Mei Shuyan's body entrenched in her heart meridian. If he wanted to get rid of it, it would be very troublesome, and it would be difficult to see results. Who is so vicious? Who is the owner of that cold chi? June Moxie asked with a gloomy face. Half-bodied. It's the divine palm of blood shadow. Mei Shuyan sighed and said, it was him who had launched a sneak attack on me that year. He had struck me with the air-splitting palm, and I had been besieged. So, I had to escape with serious injuries. But, I realized that the palm had an extremely evil and strange power. I had been focused on escaping at that time. So, I didn't pay attention to my internal injuries. So, I found out that it was very difficult to get rid of it when I had to recuperate. I had tried many times over the years, but I couldn't get rid of it. But, I had enough power to suppress it. So, I let it be. It's this guy. I let him die so easily that day. June Moxie said hatefully, I should have left him alive if I had known this earlier. I would have slowly tortured him until he recovered. I would have tortured him again and again in this manner. I would have kept him alive for several years. Mei Shuyan forced a smile. We can't do it here. Let's go to your room. June Moxie stood up solemnly and said, Qian Sun, you guard outside. No one is allowed to enter, no exception. This is a crucial moment for your elder sister. You must remember this. The Qian Sun Serpent Queen was shocked and quickly agreed. The two of them came to Mei Shuyan's room. June Moxie's face was full of worry as he said, the treatment process this time is very simple. You just have to use pure qi to force the poison into the centrifugal meridian and let it flow along the 3-yang meridian of the hand. Finally, it will be released from the Chong meridian of the right hand. But in the process of treatment, the evil poison will inevitably flow into the 3-yang meridian of the hand. So this process will be very uncomfortable, itchy, and painful. But in this short period of time, you must not move at all, not even a bit. However, during this period of time, you must not move, not even a little bit. However, after the poison is forced out, you can sleep for a while. When you wake up, everything will be fine. Once the illness is gone, there will be room for improvement. Mei Shuyan agreed softly. All right. Since you are ready, take off your clothes. June Moxie said seriously, the evil qi in the body, especially the evil qi that starts from the heart, is the most difficult to deal with. If there are clothes blocking it, you will be in danger of being attacked at any time. When that time comes, it will be really bad. As he said this, June Dashao couldn't help but reveal a trace of slyness in his eyes. Ah. I have to take off my clothes. Mei Shuyan's eyes widened and her face flushed red. Of course I have to take off my clothes. June Moxie's face turned serious as he said sanctimoniously, you're also a martial arts expert. Don't tell me that you still don't understand this principle. This is a must. You can't be careless. I am the doctor now. If you don't listen to me, who will you listen to? Mei Shuyan thought for a long time with a red face. Finally, she made up her mind and said, all right, I will listen to you. But, you, don't move. If you move, you are a beast. Hearing this, June Moxie almost wanted to howl at the sky, but he forcefully held it in and said with a serious face. Shui Yan, don't worry. I am not that kind of person. I am definitely a gentleman. But in his heart, he added, compared to being worse than a beast, I would rather be a beast. Mei Shuyan snorted. In her heart, she thought, this enemy, I have already decided to be him in this life. It is destined that there will not be any changes. I was worried about him for the past few days and regretted not understanding my heart earlier. Moreover, this is treatment. What he said is very reasonable. I am the patient and he is the doctor. I should listen to him. In that instant, Mei Shuyan found countless reasons for herself and finally convinced herself. With trembling fingers, she gently touched the silk belt on her waist. Just as she was about to pull it open, she suddenly raised her head and said angrily, You turn around first. Jun Mo Xia let out a series of sounds, and obediently turned around. He was secretly pleased in his heart. I won't let you look now. Humph, I'll still have to look later. Moreover, I'll be able to look as much as I want. Wouldn't I be worse than a beast if I didn't move around and look? There was a rustling sound behind him. Jun Moxie even heard Mei Shuiyan's breathing quicken. Her body seemed to be trembling slightly. After a long time, a timid voice asked, "This underwear needs to be taken off too." "Take it off." Jun Moxie said resolutely, "This is the key. The slightest difference is the difference of 1,000 miles. The slightest difference is also the key. Don't leave anything behind." Mei Shuiyan suddenly became suspicious. Just as Jun Dashao had said, she was a martial arts expert and had seen many things. Naturally, she knew that some poisons had to be treated by taking off one's clothes. This was to prevent any obstruction from the air and the poison would return to the body. The blood shadow divine palm that she had been hit by was strange and overbearing. Perhaps it was the same. However, Mei Shuiyan knew one thing. No poisons would require the body to be naked to expel the poison. If the upper body was injured, it was enough to remove the clothes on the upper body. She just wanted a more relaxed condition. It didn't mean that she had to take off all her clothes. Jun Moxie had already explained that he only needed to circulate the 3 yang meridians of the hands. Why did she need to take off all her clothes? Therefore, at this crucial moment, Mei Shuiyan intentionally asked this question. And Jun Moxie was so obsessed with lust that he forgot everything. He blurted it out without thinking. And he said it with desire. Eagerness. That damn brat. He's worse than a beast. Mei Shuiyan was instantly enraged. She put on her clothes quickly and pinched Jun Moxie's ear. She sneered, "Jun Moxie, you're really scheming. I underestimated you by calling you a beast just now. You're worse than a beast." Thinking that she was tricked by him to the point of almost taking off all her clothes. Mei Shuiyan's face turned red. She was embarrassed and angry. She pinched his ear with her right hand and twisted it fiercely. The twist was more than 90 degrees, and it was going to be 180 degrees. Jun Moxie squealed like a pig being slaughtered. Everything had been going so smoothly. He didn't expect to be seen through. This girl was obviously stupid. How did she become so smart all of a sudden? She even got caught in the act. This was bad. Jun Moxie hurriedly begged for mercy. After a long time, Mei Shuiyan's anger hadn't subsided yet. She didn't let it go. "Tell me, is there a way to cure the injury without taking off my clothes? Be straightforward." I suddenly remembered that there's a method that doesn't require me to take off my clothes. It can also be cured, but the effects. Jun Mo Xia quickly changed his words as he felt the pain. Humph. Is there only one way? All the methods don't need to take off my clothes, right? Will the effect really be that bad? Mei Shuiyan exerted more strength in her hands. Jun Moxie was in a sorry state. After a long time, the detoxification was finally successful. The meridians in Mei Shuiyan's body had completely recovered under Jun Moxie's care. A strong sense of sleepiness arose. Mei Shuiyan unknowingly fell into a deep sleep. Jun Mo Xia looked at Mei Shuiyan, who was sleeping soundly on the bed. She was as beautiful as a begonia in spring. However, he had a bitter expression on his face as he touched his ear with lingering fear. It really hurts. Even if he wanted to, he didn't have the guts. Today, he was worse than a beast. He wouldn't be a beast anymore. Chapter 560. Mei Shuiyan's old injury, the blood shadow poison palm, was actually so evil. If it had been a normal person, just a little bit of it would have caused the whole body to fester and die. No wonder even Mei Shuyan's amazing Xian skills could not do anything about it. Fortunately, Mei Shuyan's strength was amazing and was able to suppress it. If her skills were any weaker, she would have died a long time ago. Young Master Jun sighed, and tiptoed out of the room. Other divine doctors had always put on airs, and great benefits had been delivered to their doorstep. But, he had treated someone's injuries out of goodwill, and ended up getting beaten up. Even though his heart was a little impure, people were really different from each other. Over the next few days, Jun Mo Xie gathered all the people around him for a special training. Other than a limited number of people, even Jun Zhantian and Jun Wui participated. Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyun fought to be the first. Jun Moxie even called Hai Chen Feng and Song Shang back. The aristocratic hall was handed over to Fatty. The aristocratic hall was the #1 auction house in the capital city. In fact, it was the #1 auction house in the entire continent. Moreover, no one would dare to mess with it. The guards would sleep every day. No one would dare to behave atrociously in the aristocratic hall. Bailey Luo Yun and the other members of the Heaven Destroyer and Spirit Devourer also gathered to participate in the special training. Jun Moxie's goal was simple: strength. Everyone's strength. Or battle experience. Although the previous confrontation with the 3 Holy Lands wasn't a shameful loss, it still exposed the fact that the Jun family was still lacking in top-notch fighting strength. Although the Jun family's current strength was already at the level of a super family in the secular world, it was still far from enough. Speaking of which, the higher-ups of the Jun family had all taken the Tongyuan and the other 2 pills. Their speed had undoubtedly increased a lot, but their lack of experience was also an obvious problem. Thus, they needed some time to adjust. Jun Moxie first gave Hai Chen Feng and Song Shang a Heavenly Yuan Dan to enhance their strength. Then, he gave them a Vitality Linkage Dan and a Vitality Gathering Dan each, and asked them to protect each other so that they could quickly enhance their strength. As for Bailey Luo Yun, Jun Moxie's request was very simple: you must, of course, break through to the Tian Xian realm within 10 days. Furthermore, he tossed out a few elixirs for him to use. Only when one reached the Sky Xian realm could he barely reach the lower limit of taking the Sky Xian pill. Only by successfully breaking through from Tian Xian to Xin Xian would one be able to consume the Vitality Linkage pill and Vitality Gathering pill. This was a hurdle. With Jun Moxie, if you could pass, you would be able to improve quickly. If you couldn't, you could only stare at the sky full of good stuff. It's not that I don't want them, but I'm afraid that you won't be able to digest them. It was the same for the members of the Heaven Destroyer and Spirit Devourer. Because their foundations were weaker, Jun Moxie's orders were a little cruel. No matter how much you improve, even if you die from exhaustion, you must reach my requirements. I don't want trash. Those who are Gold Xian must reach Earth Xian by the time I return from Dongfang family. Those who are Yu Xian must reach Tian Xian. There will be enough mysterious Yang Dan and Spirit Gathering pill. As long as you can improve, it doesn't matter how much you eat. But, you must achieve my goal. This time, Feng Wanyun was able to step forward bravely in times of danger and go through thick and thin with the Jun family. Jun Mo Xie's impression of him was undoubtedly very good. Naturally, he would not be stingy with his own people. After eating the elixirs, Feng Wanyun finally understood how Solitary Eagle could improve so quickly. He was shocked. But at the same time, he made up his mind: from now on, I will stay in the Jun family. No matter what, I will not let this stinky eagle surpass me. On the other side, Jun Zhantian, Jun Wuyi, Hai Chen Feng, Song Shang, Bailey Luo Yun, and the others had gathered together. They were practicing in pairs. They were trying to experience their current speed and strength to their heart's content. Bailey Luo Yun was obviously the weakest among them. But, he was a genius of the Bailey family. And, he had a unique understanding of the moves. Bailey Luo Yun's improvement was the fastest among them, and his improvement was also the greatest. Solitary Eagle, Feng Wanyun, Mei Shuyan, Qian Sun Serpent Queen, and Jun Moxie were at another place. They also focused on getting used to each other. Don't look at how Jun Dashao's improvement was frightening, but he did not know why. It was the complete opposite of ordinary people. Mei Shuyan, a martial arts super expert, suggested a plan, to learn from each other, to learn from each other, to learn from each other. On the first day, after everyone had been assigned, everyone began to practice. Feng Wanyun and Solitary Eagle looked at Jun Moxie in confusion. Feng Wanyun was especially puzzled and asked, "This is a place for people of the supreme level to practice, what are you doing here?" Looking at this young man, he seemed to be looking down on him. Solitary Eagle added fuel to the fire and said, "I say, old Feng, this is old Jun's house, why don't you test him personally? Just treat it as giving guidance to the younger generation." Feng Wanyun walked out unwillingly because he was actually the weakest among them. This job should be done by him. But the moment they exchanged blows, he was shocked. Jun Moxie's attack was strange, sharp, and majestic. But what shocked Feng Wanyun the most was that this kid's cultivation was actually not below his, and was even slightly stronger. Could it be that he had seen a ghost in broad daylight? Great Supreme Feng drew his sword in anger but was defeated by Jun Moxie on the spot. Solitary Eagle was shocked. Although he knew that Jun Moxie was strong, he did not expect him to be this strong. Excited, he naturally jumped out to challenge Jun Dashao. Thus, after exchanging 500 blows with Jun Dashao, the two of them came to a draw. Qian Sun Serpent Queen also fought with Jun Dashao, and the result was the same, a draw. In the end, it was Mei Shuyan who personally made a move. Under the situation where Jun Moxie did not use the yin-yang escape, she finally defeated this troublesome fellow. She even kicked his butt a few times and secretly commented, "You brat, you don't need to waste time. I really don't know where your battle experience comes from. You're even more experienced than a few hundred years of Jianghu veterans. Could there really be a natural genius?" After her old injuries were healed, Mei Shuyan's cultivation had improved greatly. Even she had to go through a lot of trouble to deal with Jun Dashao, not to mention others. Based on Mei Shuyan's judgment, Jun Moxie's current strength was definitely above Shi Changxiao's, and was not any weaker than Li Ju Tian. The five of them took turns to fight on the stage, and the champion was naturally Mei Shuyan. Occasionally, when she was excited, Mei Shuyan would fight 1 against 4, causing the 5 of them to cry out in joy. During this period of time, Jun Moxie kept searching, and even used his spiritual energy to check the dantian of Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyun. He even checked Mei Shuyan's dantian. Finally, he more or less understood the fundamental difference between a supreme-level expert and a Xin Xian expert, or rather, the difference between the Xian Qi advancement in this world and the cultivation level in Jun Moxie's mind. Right now, in Jun Moxie's dantian, there was a small infant. In terms of cultivation, it should be called the nascent soul stage. There was actually such a saying in martial arts. In the process of cultivation, there were occasionally people who did not know about cultivation but managed to reach this stage. It was called forming the nascent soul out of the mortal world. It was said that this was the highest stage of traditional martial arts. The only difference was that when traditional martial arts reached this stage, the nascent soul had to break out from the top of one's head and leave the physical body. From then on, it would be spiritually wandering the universe, and its whereabouts would be unknown. But in cultivation, the nascent soul would always be nurtured in the dantian, and rarely would anyone be willing to let it out. That was the second life of a cultivator, but in this world, it was different for Solitary Eagle and the rest. Because they did not cultivate inner energy, nor did they practice cultivation techniques, but when they reached the level of Solitary Eagle, in his dantian, there would be something similar to the breaking of a golden core, which contained a huge amount of energy. This realm should be the stage where a cultivator had broken through to the golden core stage, and was about to form the nascent soul. As for Feng Wanyun's dantian, it was a half-solid, half-misty object. because his current cultivation was slightly lower than solitary eagles. And the shape of the nascent soul core in this world was very different from what was described in the Hongjun Pagoda. It was not a shiny golden shape, but a gloomy grayish-black object. From this point of analysis, although Xian Qi could not be said to be superior to the inner energy of his previous life, it was more or less on the same level. Compared to humans, in Mei Shuiyan's Dantian, there was a snow-white Xian Dan. It was the same for the Qian Sun Serpent Queen, but her Xian Dan was green. Jun Moxie could not understand this. Even if the Qian Sun was still in the golden core stage, could it be that Mei Shuiyan was only in the golden core stage as well? That was impossible. It was a pity that Bear King and Tiger King had already left. If they were still around, they would have 2 more references. And Mei Shuiyan's answer solved his doubts. Once a Xian beast reached the 5th level and above, its body would form a Xian Dan. Usually, it was semi-solid. But after the 9th level, the Xian Dan would completely stabilize and become a Dan. Any higher, the shape would become rounder and rounder, but the shape of the body would not change. Until now, the Tian Fa forest still had the Xian Dan left behind by the Beast Kings and Saint Kings. According to Mei Shuiyan's memories, these Xian Dan were mostly round and flawless, like peerless pearls. The biggest one was like a piece of Xian jade. It was crystal clear, and could be seen from one side to the other. It was bright in the night, and contained an earth-shattering power. But what would happen when it was cultivated to its final form, even Mei Shuiyan did not know. Jun Moxie studied it for a long time, but still did not fully understand it. So, he gave up. He felt a little regret that he did not check on the human superior supremes first, such as Huang Taiyang. What a waste! Leaving this matter aside, Jun Moxie focused all his attention on improving everyone's strength. This special training would last for a total of 10 days. Chapter 561. Jun Moxie had always been very curious about a woman who was worthy of the White General. A woman who was deeply in love and had no regrets. A woman who had forcibly sealed herself off for 10 years after her husband's death. What kind of deep love and despair did she have to be able to do that? Dongfang Wen Xian, Jun Moxie's mother. My mother. Jun Moxie secretly said in his heart. In fact, he was looking forward to this day coming sooner. He hadn't tasted a bit of maternal love in his 2 lives. Jun Moxie really yearned for it. Sometimes, when he thought about it, he would feel a sour pain in his heart. During the training, the 2 crippled children had also participated. Jun Moxie had given each member of the Heaven Destroyer and Spirit Devourer a bone-tempering pill. Naturally, he hadn't forgotten about them. Moreover, he had taught them ventriloquism. In these few days, they had already made some progress. Although they still couldn't speak coherently, they could already make some indistinct sounds, just like a drunkard's murmuring. One could imagine that when the 2 of them mastered their skills and appeared in the pugilistic world, they would definitely cause quite a stir in this world. 2 mutes. 2 people who didn't even need their mouths to speak, but could make sounds. That kind of expression would definitely be very interesting. Jun Moxie had only imagined it, and was already so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. However, during this process, Jun Moxie had also encountered an inconceivable matter. Yi Guhan had refused to take Jun Moxie's pills. During this period of time, Yi Guhan had been wholeheartedly guiding the 2 crippled children in sword and saber practice. Whenever there was a problem, he would do his best to provide an explanation. This caused the 2 children to improve abnormally quickly. Even Jun Moxie was shocked when he returned. He had originally planned to help Yi Guhan treat his injuries as a way of returning the favor. One had to know that Yi Guhan's body had been crippled, and his dantian had been damaged. Although Jun Moxie had tried his best to treat him, the effect was still limited. Up until now, he had only recovered less than 30% of his strength. Now that Jun Moxie's strength had increased, he had the ability to help him recover completely. Yet, Yi Guhan had actually rejected him. When he rejected, Yi Guhan's expression was very calm. He only had one request. If he could create a one-armed sword technique one day, he hoped that Jun Moxie would be able to help the two children learn it. Also, he would be able to inherit his legacy. Moreover, there was no need for a master-disciple relationship. Jun Moxie thought about it carefully. Then, he agreed. When Jun Moxie was about to leave, Yi Guhan wanted to say something but hesitated. Finally, he said, "Young Master Jun, no matter what grudges the previous generation had, I hope that you can take good care of Raimu. She is innocent, and she is a kind girl." With this sentence, Jun Moxie vaguely understood why Yi Guhan was unwilling to accept his treatment. Everyone had their own guesses about the grudges between the Jun family and the royal family. Especially the death of the White Commander, Jun Wuhui, which shocked the world. And it seemed that Yi Guhan had long guessed the truth of the matter. Because he himself and his family had also disappeared. He had even guessed that Jun Moxie would deal with the Emperor of Tianxiang sooner or later. At that time, where would Murong Xiao go? Yi Guhan was already thinking about this. He only wanted to find a way out for the people he cared about. For example, Princess Raimu, whom he had watched grow up and saw as a daughter. The more he accepted Jun Moxie's kindness now, the harder it would be for him to open his mouth in the future. If he accepted Jun Moxie's help, he would not even have the right to open his mouth in the future. Therefore, Yi Guhan would rather be a cripple for life. He would rather be a cripple for life. All because at the critical moment, he hoped that he could open his mouth and do his best to help the person he loved, even if it was just a sentence. Although this method was somewhat demanding repayment, Yi Guhan really had no other way to make Jun Moxie owe him a favor. Although, this was not considered a favor at all, but Yi Guhan also hoped that when Xiao and Raimu had no one to rely on, he would have a chance to open his mouth to Jun Moxie. No matter how slim, Jun Moxie understood his thoughts, but Jun Moxie could not give any promises, so he could only leave silently. 10 days later, Jun Moxie was ready to go. This time, there was only one person with him, Mei Xuan. Jun Moxie planned to travel at full speed with light equipment. Even the Qian Sun Serpent Queen stayed at the Jun family to ensure the safety of the Jun family, and also to be prepared if Tian Fa came to deliver the medicine again, there would be someone to receive them. Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyun also stayed at the Jun family to focus on their cultivation. In this period of time, Song Shang and Hai Chen Feng had made great progress, successfully raising their strength to Xinxian's level. Naturally, they were extremely excited and returned to their original positions. And Bailey Luoyun finally broke through the bottleneck of the peak of Earth Xian and reached Tian Xian's level under the huge pressure of the spirit medicine and fighting with Xin Xian and Jizun every day. Jun Moxie naturally would not go back on his words. He gave him a heavenly vitality pill, a vitality linkage pill and a vitality gathering pill, and told him to only take it after he broke through to Xin Xian's level. On the day that Jun Moxie left, Bailey Luoyun also quietly left to train. The two children with him were the same. Jun Moxie had asked Bailey Luoyun to pick a few assassins and train them. But Bailey Luoyun had spent a long time picking, and had even tried to train them. But in the end, he had given up. But when he saw the two kids, his eyes lit up. After a short examination, he had decided that he wanted them. Therefore, Jun Moxie racked his brains and gave the two children two names that were full of martial arts flavor, Tian Can and DK. Obviously, Jun Moxie had given these two names with the intention of making fun of them. But he did not expect that a few years later, these two names would cause the entire continent to tremble. Many years later, these two names would become the two biggest taboos in the world of assassins. Somewhere in Tianxiang City, the people from the three holy lands had been gathered here for half a month. Xi Jinghong and the rest felt like their buttocks were numb from sitting. They were all very depressed. Because, 7 or 8 days ago, detailed news had arrived. on a certain day in a certain month, 3 supreme martial artists from the illusory Blood Sea, who were scattered along the Tianxiang to Tiannan Road, encountered the Bear King and Tiger King in Tiannan's Wufu County. Both sides engaged in a fierce battle, and the 3 supreme martial artists were beheaded and fell at the same time. The Bear King and Tiger King broke out of the encirclement unscathed. Based on the distance, they should be back in the Tianfa forest by now. Hearing this news, Zi Jinghong immediately smashed a big rock in front of her into pieces. They had been waiting here, but they did not know that the enemy had already slipped away under their noses, and they had even lost 3 supreme martial artists. To think that they had been discussing about intercepting the enemy for the past few days, this was a real joke. The experts from the 3 Holy Lands had lost all face. Just like that, a few more days passed. Suddenly, another piece of news arrived. Jun Moxie and Mei Shuiyan had left for the Dongfang family. Zi Jinghong was immediately energized. She roared, "Everyone, move out. This is a rare opportunity, we must get rid of the Venerable Mei." While the 3 Holy Lands were mobilizing their troops, Jun Moxie and Mei Shuiyan had already left Tianxiang City. Everyone was at ease with the 2 of them on this trip. Both of them were super experts, and their escape methods were top-notch. In this world, before Jun Moxie appeared, Mei Shuiyan's speed could be said to be number 1. But after Jun Moxie appeared, both of them were roughly on par. Of course, that was on the premise that Jun Moxie did not use any cheating tricks like the yin-yang escape. Letting these 2 people, who could be ranked in the top 3 in terms of speed, run away, even if the enemy was too strong for them to defeat, they would definitely be able to escape with their lives. Moreover, the reason why the 2 of them chose to leave was not to escape with their lives. It was to counterattack with the sharpest killing move. The 3 Holy Lands' debt had to be collected first. Otherwise, neither of them would be able to swallow this grievance. Who would be the one chasing who on this journey? This was something that could not be determined at this point. When the 2 of them left the city, the sun had just risen. This was something that Mei Shuiyan did not understand. Yeah, if we were to leave the city at night, it would be more advantageous for both of us. It would be the best time to reverse the situation and kill them. Why do you insist on coming out during the day? When there were no outsiders around, Mei Shuiyan finally let go of her reservations and called out Jun Moxie's name. Every time this name was called out, her heart seemed to throb. How can your brain be so simple sometimes? Those fellows from the 3 Holy Lands are not fools. If we are too close to Tianxiang City, they will definitely not make a move. This is because the fluctuation of qi will very likely attract my master's attention. This is what they are most worried about. When Jun Moxie said this, Mei Shuiyan curled her lips in a secretive manner, but did not let him see it. Therefore, within the range of 300 miles, they will definitely not make a move. If they want to play it safe, perhaps they will have to travel 500 miles. Jun Moxie said confidently, and 500 miles of distance, even for the 2 of us, would take at least a day and a half. But to deal with you, they must choose a special terrain. Moreover, it must be a terrain that is absolutely advantageous to them. Only then would they be able to kill you in one fell swoop. Therefore, I estimate that the first wave of attack should be tomorrow night. Mei Shuiyan secretly scolded herself for being muddle-headed. She had really neglected the part about Jun Moxie's master. Although she vaguely knew that there was no such person, but the 3 Holy Lands did not know. Moreover, this was a target that they needed to focus on. How could they not be cautious? That's true. Mei Shuiyan nodded in agreement. This time, what are you going to do? Chapter 562. Mei Shuiyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She said, "Greed is an original sin, and the greed of humans is endless. Take our Tianfa forest for example. There are hundreds of Xian Dan left behind by our ancestors, but not a single Xian beast has any designs on those Xian Dan. You should know that we are of the same origin, and absorbing Xian Dan has fewer restrictions compared to you humans. Sigh, why are humans so greedy, always thinking of reaping without sowing? The essence of a Xian beast's lifetime of cultivation is all in the Xian Dan. But even if you humans try to absorb it, you can only absorb half of it, or even less. Why do you treat it as a shortcut to ascend to the heavens? Jun Mo Xia said in a deep voice, you're right, but you're also wrong. As you said, human nature is greedy. Not to mention absorbing half of the energy, even if they could only absorb 1/10 or 1/100th of it, there would still be people who would do it. Even if they can't absorb a single bit of it, they can still gain experience and sell it for money. So, you should stop your wrong thinking. Otherwise, you will harm Tian Fa. Mei Shuiyan was silent, but her eyes flashed with a hint of resentment. Jun Mo Xia laughed heartily and changed the topic. I've already calculated the possibility of the 3 holy lands attacking this time. I think that we only need to consider which side will be the first to attack tomorrow night. I think it should be Hermitage. Mei Shuiyan said confidently, Zi Jinghong and Xiao Weicheng are cautious people, they will definitely not be the first to take the risk. But, they will definitely hide at the side and take advantage of the situation. Jun Moxie snorted and laughed. He pointed the horsewhip in front of him and said, after this mountain pass in front, there will be a mountain road. Now that it has been snowing for a few days, the mountain road is difficult to travel. There will definitely be some action in this mountain road. We might as well hurry up. Don't let those from the 3 holy lands rush to their deaths. Mei Shuiyan could not help but smile and agree. The two of them shouted at the same time, and the horses under them neighed and galloped away, leaving a trail of snow and dust behind them. On the wall of the Tianxiang city, Zi Jinghong's eyes were filled with a murderous look as she watched the 2 riders speeding away. The location of the operation cannot be too close to the Tianxiang city. In case that old monster comes out again, we will be in an awkward situation. We won't be in Tianxiang city, and there won't be any Jun family members on the way. So, he won't necessarily be afraid. Brother Z, in your opinion, where should we strike? Xiao Weicheng stepped on the thick snow, but didn't make a sound as he floated in front of Zi Jinghong. Following behind him was Ning Wuqing, Hermitage's temporary leader. Tianxiang City, 200 miles in this direction is the mountain road. Moreover, it was a mountain road that took half a month. During this period of time, the snow will block the mountain, so they won't be able to travel fast. So, we don't have to be too anxious. Zi Jinghong said gloomily, but, Venerable Mei's speed has always been the best in the world. It won't be difficult for him to escape. So, we must choose the terrain well. Yes, we do need to consider this carefully. But, if the terrain is disadvantageous to Venerable Mei, it will also be disadvantageous to us. Ning Wuqing said calmly, in a one-on-one fight, none of us here is a match for Venerable Mei. So, we must think carefully about the formation of the troops. If we can seriously injure her in the first attack, then, with so many of us, we can tire her to death with our speed. Zi Jinghong stroked his long beard and sighed, but, if we want to seriously injure Venerable Mei, it's easier said than done. Without sacrificing a few lives, it's impossible. Venerable Mei is not as naive as he was in the past. I'm afraid that we will be in danger of being annihilated. Speaking of this, the 3 of them became silent. No one was willing to be the first to be cannon fodder, but that was for sure. Let's just draw straws. Since fate has decided, the 3 groups will move separately. Zi Jinghong's eyes flashed and said, the first group will choose the terrain to intercept. Whether it succeeds or not, the second group will be nearby and prepare to intercept. As for the third group, they will rush to the road ahead of time and be ready to intercept the second time. So, this cycle will repeat. Even if the third group still fails, the first group must try their best to rush to the next intercepting location. This is for the third interception. This cycle will continue until we kill Venerable Mei. Great idea. Ning Wuqing and Xiao Weiqing applauded and praised at the same time. The three of them had no more objections and came to a decision. Right in front of the two of them, Zi Jinghong personally wrote down 3 pieces of paper. The 3 pieces of paper were naturally waved, rolled into 3 small balls, and placed in the palm of his hand. Looking at the two of them, she said seriously, although drawing straws is child's play, this matter is not trivial. Drawing the first group is more dangerous, so the 3 of us must be prepared. We must not lose our harmony because of this. I will write the paper, and the other person will distribute it. This is the most fair way. Xiao Weiqing and Xiao Weiqing were satisfied with the way Zi Jinghong was handled. By doing so, Du Zhu had basically eliminated the possibility of cheating. It all depended on their luck. If they caught the first group, then there was nothing to say. Ning Wuqing smiled. Brother Zi said it well. Everyone should be a gentleman first, so that we can be harmonious. Since Brother Zi has troubled us to draw straws, I will distribute them. Brother Xiao will pick one first, Brother Zi will pick another, and the last one will be left to me. The 3 of them looked at each other and suddenly laughed at the same time. This is indeed the most fair way. Let's see who is lucky enough to draw the first group and achieve great things. After saying that, Ning Wuqing took the small paper balls from Zi Jinghong's hand, shuffled them again and placed them on the table. The 3 of them reached out and took one each. When Xiao Weiqing took the paper balls, he looked at Zi Jinghong's expression. After all, he was the only one who had not touched the small paper balls just now. Seeing Zi Jinghong smile, Xiao Weiqing immediately felt relieved. Recalling what the 2 of them had said earlier, he could not help but look at Ning Wuqing pitifully and opened the paper balls with a smile. However, when he opened it, Xiao Weiqing suddenly choked and coughed as if he had eaten a mouthful of burning charcoal, his face flushed red. Ning Wuqing and Zi Jinghong opened their own paper balls and smiled at each other. Ning Wuqing said, I'm in the second group. Zi Jinghong smiled like the spring breeze and said leisurely, I'm afraid Blood Sea won't be able to do much this time, so I'm in the third group. I guess before it's my turn, the 2 of you will have already gotten this great achievement. The 2 of them cupped their fists at Xiao Weiqing at the same time and said seriously, Brother Xiao, the difficult task of the first wave of attack will be handed over to the Great Golden City. I hope Brother Xiao can succeed in one move and get rid of this big trouble. Just the thought of Brother Xiao getting Venerable Mei's top-notch Xian Dan is enough to make me envious. Xiao Weiqing's mouth was full of bitterness and he could not say anything anymore. The paper ball in his hand had 3 words clearly written on it, first group. Xiao Weiqing slowly raised his head and stared at Zi Jinghong. Lengleng smiled and said sharply, Brother Zi, good move indeed. Xiao Weiqing was extremely depressed. Just a moment ago, he was still plotting with Zi Jinghong on how to let Hermitage take the lead while he and the illusory Blood Sea took advantage of the situation. He did not expect that in the blink of an eye, he would be forced to the front. There was something fishy about this. Even if he didn't say it out loud, it was clear that Zi Jinghong had sold him out without batting an eye. Xiao Weiqing would not believe that there was nothing fishy about this drawing of lots. Brother Xiao, what are you talking about? We are all doing this for the Holy Land, for all the people in the world. We have a long way to go and we hope that everyone can help each other. Zi Jinghong said with a serious face and righteousness. But in his heart, he was secretly happy. This guy is so easy to fool. He even wants to scheme against Hermitage. Ning Wuqing is an astute man. Now, he is like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bough. How can he be so easy to scheme against? We have talked a lot these past few days. I am afraid that Ning Wuqing has already become suspicious. If he really draws the lot, maybe he will fall out with me on the spot. Then, everything will be fine if old Ning decides the lot. Besides, Hermitage has already lost a top-notch expert, half-bodied. Our illusory Blood Sea has also lost Huang Taiyang. But, Your great golden city has not lost any strong experts. You still want to preserve your strength? Dream on. Ning Wuqing laughed and said, among the three forces, the great golden city has the most outstanding strength. I believe that the first wave of attack will be able to smoothly take down Venerable Mei. This is expected. Brother Xiao will certainly be famous in the world. Such a great achievement, and that top-notch Xian Dan is really enviable. Xiao Weiqing snorted and said, is Brother Ning really so envious? Then, how about we swap? No, for such a big matter, other than having good luck, it also requires extraordinary strength. Our elusive world of immortals is currently weak, and we are a group of dragons without a leader. Even if we really go, we will only be sending ourselves to death. It is most appropriate for Brother Xiao to lead the team. I am sure that we will succeed in one battle. Ning Wuqing was startled and quickly declined. Brother Xiao, didn't we agree just now? A villain should be the first to act like a gentleman. This time, the drawing of lots was fair and reasonable. Everyone was watching. Even if I really played a trick, and Brother Ning transferred to another sect, it was your sect's first choice. What is the meaning of your sarcastic words? Zi Jinghong said righteously, if I, Zi Jinghong, am in the first group, I will certainly move forward bravely. In any case, I will not be so suspicious. But Brother Xiao, as the three-pearled throne of the great golden city, it is really surprising that you are so timid. If Brother Xiao thinks that it is unfair, then why don't we do it again? There is no need. Although I, Xiao Weicheng, am not an outstanding person, I know that my words are worth a lot. Xiao Weicheng Lenglang said, our great golden city will do our best to carry out the first wave of the hunting mission. Brother Z, you don't have to worry about it. You and I are on our own. We will meet again someday. After that, Xiao Weicheng turned around and left. Zi Jinghong looked at him with a gloomy face as he left. Suddenly, she turned around and smiled at Ning Wuqing. The white snow was dazzling. At this moment, it was already dusk of the second day. In this vast mountain range, two silhouettes were flying at lightning speed. Chapter 563. She taught with all her heart, and learned with all her heart. Within a short period of time, Mei Shuyan had improved tremendously. As a top-notch master, her high level of comprehension was very useful at this moment. She only needed to practice once, and she would be able to grasp the essence of any movement. Moreover, it was easy to learn something like a sleigh, especially for a master like Mei Shuyan. Her body was much more flexible than an ordinary person's, and her body was light. She also had peerless Qing Gong. With a little more time, she could easily surpass Jun Moxie. However, even though Mei Shuyan had learned the movement, she still pretended that she hadn't learned it. She coquettishly asked Jun Moxie to teach her again, like a little girl who was coquettishly asking her lover. Jun Moxie didn't expose her, and the two of them continued to teach and learn, enjoying themselves. The deep mountain wilderness suddenly seemed to be filled with the warmth of spring. Even the bone-chilling cold wind seemed to have become gentle and pleasant. Two silhouettes crisscrossed in the mountains, moving back and forth. They were like two shooting stars streaking across the night sky, drawing out nimble trajectories as they rapidly shuttled through the mountain forest. Mei Shuyan had finally mastered all the techniques of skiing. She was like a child who had just received a new toy. She happily dragged Jun Moxie along to practice, laughing all the way. It was late at night. Jun Moxie chose a valley with a dangerous terrain. The valley was about 400 to 500 feet high, but it was already covered with snow. It looked like a flat plain. If an ordinary person fell in, they would probably lose their life. However, for Jun Moxie and Mei Shuyan, it was like walking on flat ground. Instead, they jumped down excitedly. In the middle of the layer of snow, Jun Mo activated his divine power. His palms silently pressed upwards and downwards, compacting the snow. Slowly, he made a sealed space the size of two houses. Although the cold wind was howling outside, the walls of the room were made of snow. It was exceptionally warm inside. It was about a few feet away from the top of the canyon. It was like a special room that appeared out of thin air. Both of them had profound Xian Qi, so they didn't have to worry about breathing. However, Jun Mocs still chose a few long bamboo sticks, and connected them together. He then used his spiritual power to open up the joints between them, and extended the other end of the bamboo sticks out of the snow. A gust of fresh air reached them, and although it was still a little stuffy, it was much better than before. Mei Xuan looked at Jun Moxi's masterpiece in amazement. She couldn't help but be amazed. She said, "It's been so many years, but I've never thought that you could do this when it snows. Clapping your hands, you can make a house like this. Not only is it easy, but it's also very interesting. In this world, there are only things that can't be imagined, but there's nothing that can't be done." As she said that, she looked at Jun Moxi with her big bright eyes and said, "But, Jun Dashao, are you going to let me sleep on top of the snow? That's not possible. Even if you don't mind, my heart will ache." Jun Moc's face was solemn as he made a solemn vow. "Then, what should we do?" Mei Xuan looked at the two of them. It seemed that she was the only one with a small bag. Jun Moxi came out empty-handed. He didn't even have a sword. "Not to mention a blanket, I have my own plan." Jun Moxi smiled mysteriously. He stretched out his hand and shouted, "Change." Two big white bear fur coats appeared in his hand. Jun Moxi raised his eyebrows and said, "What do you think? Isn't this the bear fur coat that the idiot Bear Mountain bought? How did it end up in your hands?" Speaking of Bear Mountain's bear fur coat, Mei Xuan couldn't help but feel angry and amused at the same time. God knows what was wrong with that guy that day. As the king of bears, he actually went to buy bear fur coats. Speaking of this, Jun Moxi was a little impressed by that shop's promotion methods, definitely a business talent. A top-notch salesman in the business market, this is all thanks to you, elder sister. That old bear didn't dare to take it away after you scolded him. So, it's a good thing for me. Look at its quality. It's of the highest quality. Jun Moc smiled mischievously. Mei Xuan didn't like it. She couldn't help but mock, "You really took advantage of it. I don't understand. That old bear obviously spent the money you gave him. What kind of logic is this? You're so proud of yourself for taking so much glory." Jun Moxi said righteously, "Your logic is the problem. Think about it. Just like how I often stew snake soup with Qian Sun, who in this world can eat the snake soup offered by the Snake King? Who can wear the bear fur coat that Bear King bought himself? On this point, I, your big brother, am the only one who has ever done it. I am proud of myself." Mei Xuan giggled. It had to be said that this was a little too funny. Other than the idiot Bear Mountain, no other beast king would be able to do such a thing. Although Jun Moxi had gotten the snake from Qian Sun, it was a hidden weapon that Qian Sun had left behind when she was chasing after him. The two could not be mentioned in the same breath. It was indeed a classic. He casually spread his coat on the solid snow. One coat covered the other, and it was all done. Jun Moxi gestured politely, "Wife, it's getting late. Please take off your coat and go to bed. I'm sure you'll be able to sleep well." "Ah. Just these two. What about you?" Mei Xuan opened her eyes wide. "I don't mind. I can resist the cold. Let me freeze. For you, I'm willing to freeze. It's my fault for not being well prepared and only bringing these two coats. For your reputation, I'm fine." Jun Moxi rolled his eyes and said in a regretful tone. If Mei Xuan were to say, "How about, we squeeze together?" That would be great. This young master would definitely push the boat with the current and say, let's squeeze together then." Mei Shuiyan let out a long, "oh," and said regretfully, "Since you're so generous and considerate, you can just freeze outside." How could Mei Shuiyan not see through Jun Moxie's intentions? No matter what, she could not let this little thief have his way. What? Mei Shuiyan's words were obviously out of Jun Moxie's expectation. His mouth opened into the shape of a duck's egg. Mei Shuiyan snorted and took off her outer robe, revealing her curvaceous body. She sneaked into the 2 layers of bear fur coat. Feeling the soft fur and the warm touch, she couldn't help but sigh. "It's so warm." Jun Moxie was speechless. How could it not be warm? After a while, Jun Moxie hugged his arms and started to shiver. His teeth were chattering and making a creaking sound. He stole a glance at Mei Shuiyan and saw that her eyes were closed, as if she had fallen asleep. Jun Dashao took a deep breath and rolled his eyes. Suddenly, he started running back and forth, stomping his feet and said, "It's so cold, I'm freezing. Oh my God, my hands are frozen, my feet are frozen. My little brother is frozen too. Help, someone help me, give me some warmth, I'll be grateful to him for the rest of my life." Mei Shuiyan turned a deaf ear to him and was still snoring. "How can you be so unsympathetic?" Young Master Jun mumbled to himself. Everyone says that when a man acts like this at this moment, no matter how shy a woman is, she will still lift up her blanket and ask, "How about we squeeze a little?" But when it comes to me, it's totally different. It seems like the line in the movies and TV series is not a joke. Maybe Jun Dashao had overlooked it. He did not think that with his current power, he would be fine even if he was thrown into ice for a month, not to mention this warm space under the snow. If Mei Shuiyan still could not see through his trick, she would be too stupid. In the snow room, as time passed, a fragrant scent spread out. In this almost sealed space, Mei Shuiyan's womanly scent was even more refreshing. Jun Moxie took a few deep breaths. His dantian was getting hotter and hotter. He did not get to take advantage of her, but instead, his face turned red. This space was not cold at all, instead, it was so hot. Finally, Jun Dashao made up his mind. He took off his robe and was about to crawl into the bearskin coat. He did not expect that when he opened the coat, Mei Shuiyan suddenly opened her eyes and asked sternly, "What are you doing?" Jun Moxie's eyes were wide open. One of his hands was still in the position of lifting the bearskin coat. He was frozen there, dumbfounded. Now he was caught red-handed. "Shuiyan. Look at how cold I am, please take pity on me. It is not easy to be outside." Jun Moxie begged. Mei Shuiyan snorted. She was angry and amused at the same time. "It is easy for me to take pity on you. But if I do that, I will lose my chastity." "How dare you say that?" she said resolutely. "Why don't I see that you are a little cold?" "No. Go away. Before the wedding night, I will not let you pass the last hurdle no matter what." Jun Moxie laughed evilly. Suddenly, he exerted his strength, bent his waist, and forced his way in. Mei Shuiyan was enraged. She sat up and said, "You're really shameless. You can't win with tricks, so you use force. Do you believe that I will lock you in the world cage for the whole night?" Jun Moxie laughed shamelessly. "Since you also know that playing tricks is useless, then what else can I do if I don't use force? If you can bear to do it, then do it. I don't mind." He stretched his legs and said contentedly, "So comfortable." Mei Shuiyan was speechless at his shamelessness. She was about to stand up and said, "If that is the case, then you can sleep by yourself." Jun Moxie panicked. He hugged her waist and said with a cheeky smile, "Actually, this bear skin is quite big. No wonder Bear King bought it. It is not crowded for the 2 of us to sleep in it. Since we are outside, let's make do with it for the night." Mei Shuiyan was still struggling, but Jun Moxie suddenly turned around and attacked again. Mei Shuiyan made a few sounds before her mouth was blocked. After a long time, Jun Moxie raised his head proudly and said with a victorious tone, "Are you still going to let me sleep?" Mei Xuan blushed. Although her eyes were a little dazed, she shook her head firmly. I don't believe that I can't convince you. June Moxie bent down again. After a while, he asked again, can I? No. Can, then again, after a while. Can you? If you don't say anything, I'll take it as a tacit agreement. In any case, I think so. Young Master June smiled proudly. No. No. Mei Xuan refused to yield to the enemy's threat. She pouted her red lips and would rather die than submit. Chapter 564. At the mouth of the calabash. This was a mountain pass with a peculiar topography. Just as June Moxie had said, the cliffs on both sides were towering into the clouds, and there was a large basin in the middle. The two ends were extremely narrow, and could only fit 3 people riding side by side. There was also a lot of snow in the valley. It had been snowing for a few days, and the wind had not stopped. Most of the snowflakes that had blown up had filled the valley, and it was at least 100 feet thick. At the mouth of the valley, Xiao Weicheng and a few experts were wearing snow-white robes, which were the same color as the snow. They were quietly hiding behind a big rock, and their eyes were like eagles looking at the path they had come from. King Xiao, we have been waiting for a day and a night. Why hasn't the target arrived yet? Could it be that they have already surpassed him? Next to him, a white-haired old man with a goat-like face and a mouse tail stuck out his mouse-like beard asked in a serious tone. Absolutely not. The two of them had been flirting with each other along the way. They were affectionate and sweet. How could they walk so fast? Maybe he's hiding somewhere and having fun right now. Behind him, another tall and sturdy man with a curly beard said while gnashing his teeth. Ah. Brother Lu, they are having fun, but you seem to be jealous. Don't tell me, you also have bad intentions towards Venerable Mei. Another person poked his head out of the snow and said mockingly. Humph. I just despise their beastly behavior. They are so immoral and immoral. If we don't kill them, we won't be able to appease the anger of the people. If we don't kill them, we won't be able to appease the world. The curly-beard man's face turned red, and he hurriedly tried to defend himself. Don't explain. You have been staring at him since you saw him. Who can't see it? We're all men here, so who doesn't understand? Saying that the grapes are sour when you can't eat it? You're a superior supreme, yet you don't even have the courage to admit it. Another person snorted and said, Old Lu, how about we create an opportunity for you? But you have to be careful. If you die on Venerable Mei's belly, then you will be famous. Bullshit. The curly-bearded man glared at him and shouted in a low voice, I can last a long time. Everyone roared with laughter. When it came to this matter, men would never be convinced by others. This was the case for supreme beings, and this was also the case for peddlers and pawns. Suddenly, Xiao Weicheng said in a low voice, Everyone, get ready. Here comes the idea. Everyone's spirits were roused, and an exceptionally tense atmosphere pervaded the air. They were joking around, but these people were extremely afraid of Venerable Mei. So, they didn't dare to look down on her. This woman was really a great enemy, and his life was in danger at every turn. The slightest bit of carelessness and he would lose his life under her hands. Everyone looked over and couldn't help but be startled. On the road in the distance, a single woman was leisurely walking over. She was neither fast nor slow, as if she was on a sightseeing tour. However, there was only one. How could there only be one? What about the other? Where did June Moxie go? In an instant, everyone was confused. However, this was also good. After all, the only person they really wanted to kill was Mei Xuan. Without June Moxie, they had much less to worry about. They did not have to worry about accidentally injuring June Moxie and incurring the wrath of that old monster Feng Jueqing. However, since Mei Xuan was already here, where did June Moxie go? The night wind Lenglang. The night was getting darker, and the sound of the wind gradually became stronger. The narrow valley passage caused the cold wind to inevitably make an unusually shrill whistling sound when it passed through. It was like thousands of ghosts wailing at the gates of hell. Thousands of withered trees were swaying in the wind, making an unyielding sound. Snowflakes were rolled up from the ground by the strong wind, forming a hazy snow fog that connected the sky to the ground. In an instant, it had completely covered everyone's sight. Fortunately, the snow fog only lasted for a moment. Finally, it slowly dissipated. However, snowflakes started to fall from the sky again. Xiao Weiqing and the other top-notch experts who were above the supremacy level were originally calm and composed. However, at this moment, they were so nervous that all the muscles on their bodies were tensed up. They held their breath and stared at the slim figure that was walking slowly in front of them. His entire person was like a leopard that was about to pounce on its prey. The hearts of the people behind him were also tightly clenched as silence filled the air. This battle would definitely be extremely tragic. As long as Venerable Mei entered this valley, what awaited her would be the end of the road. Such a supremacy-level expert, who was at the king level, in a hopeless situation where she knew that she would definitely die, everyone knew what kind of power she would have. Although this time, the Supreme Golden City had sent out 10 supremacy-level experts, 20 supremacy-level experts, a total of 30 top-notch experts. However, if they really wanted to kill Mei Xuan, even with the most conservative estimation, at least half of them would have to die with her. There might even be more than 20 people who would perish together with her. Even if there were a few lucky survivors, they might not be able to escape unscathed. It was inevitable that they would be struggling at death's door. A supremacy-level expert was one level higher than a supremacy-level expert. Even the leaders of the 3 holy lands were only at the same level as Mei Xuan. Even if some of them were slightly stronger, they were not that much stronger. Moreover, Mei Xuan possessed a terrifying speed that no one in the world could match. If Mei Xuan's first attack upon entering the valley did not deal a heavy blow, when she regained her breath, it would be the beginning of everyone's disaster. The sky was filled with howling winds, and the snow was flying everywhere. On the ground, amidst the calmness, there was an unparalleled murderous intent. In the valley, there was a total of 30 top-notch experts lying in ambush. However, there was not a single trace of them. As Mei Xuan walked along the way, the atmosphere in the valley became more and more solemn. Suddenly, Mei Xuan seemed to have sensed something. She stopped abruptly and looked towards the valley with her beautiful eyes. Although everyone in the valley knew that she could not see them, their hearts still skipped a beat. At the same time, they retracted all of their divine senses and restrained all of their breaths. They were like zombies, hiding under the snow. The intuition of a supremacy-level expert had always been terrifying. It was especially sensitive to unknown dangers. If she had sensed something, then all their efforts would have been for naught. Suddenly, Mei Xuan's body floated up into the air. Her slender figure soared into the air, reaching a height of more than 100 feet. Then, she lightly touched the heels of her 2 slender feet and rose another 100 feet into the air. Her body made a beautiful rotation in the air. Her left and right feet touched the soles of her feet, and shwa shwa shwa, she once again rose into the air as if she was walking on air. Everyone who saw this scene could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Was this still a lightness skill? This level of lightness skill, not to mention seeing it with their own eyes, they had never even heard of it. This was the legendary godly level of attainment. In the air, Mei Xuan's indifferent eyes slowly swept across the valley. Everything within a radius of 10 miles entered her eyes. Her light body slowly descended and rotated. It was as if a fairy from the 9th heaven had descended from the sky. Her posture was so beautiful that it could move one's heart. As if she did not discover anything, Mei Xuan's originally cautious expression relaxed. She landed on the ground and looked back with light steps. Then, she continued walking towards the valley. She was here. It was finally here. She walked closer, one step, and another step. She was infinitely close. She was only 8 feet away from the entrance of the valley. Once she crossed this distance, it would be the line between life and death. It would be the gates of hell. However, Mei Xueyan did not seem to sense anything. Could it be that the Venerable's shocking intuition had failed to work? Mei Xueyan was still walking with light steps. She walked closer and closer. Occasionally, she would sweep the snowflakes by her hair. She did not seem to be on guard at all. Mei Xueyan seemed to sigh. She looked back again as if she was waiting for someone. She walked a few steps forward and suddenly stopped. She stood in the middle of the road alone, not moving an inch. The elites from the Supreme Golden City were so excited that their blood vessels were about to burst. However, the Venerable Maid did not move an inch. Come in. Come in quickly. Come in quickly. Why are you not coming in quickly? Everyone was shouting in their hearts. They were extremely enthusiastic. Damn, there are only a few steps left. Why are you not moving anymore? This is a test of our mental fortitude. The distance was neither long nor short. It was very awkward. If anyone in the valley took a deep breath, Mei Xueyan would immediately notice it. Even if the heartbeat was a little bit faster, Mei Xueyan would be alerted. Mei Xueyan was still outside the valley. The sky was high and the earth was wide. Once she noticed something was wrong, she could immediately run 1,000 miles away. With her speed, even if everyone attacked at the same time, they could only eat the dust behind her. The current situation was like a drawn bow, a bow that had been pulled to its fullest extent. Mei Xueyan seemed to have subconsciously pulled the bow into the shape of a full moon, but she suddenly stopped there. She didn't continue to exert force, but she also didn't let go. Just like that, the bow was in a stalemate. And the 30 masters of the Great Golden City were this bow. They stopped in the air awkwardly and did not dare to move. Finally, Mei Xueyan made her next move. She finally took a step forward. Everyone was relieved. But then, Mei Xueyan suddenly jumped up and landed on the trunk of a pine tree. She squatted down and sat on it lightly. Her 2 slender legs swayed back and forth in the air. She sat on the tree and looked at the path she came from. She did not move at all. Fuck. The 30 of them cursed in their hearts at the same time. What is this? Isn't she playing with us? If you want to come, then come quickly. If you want to leave, then leave quickly. But why are you making us feel like we are in a dilemma? If Jun Mo Xia knew what they were thinking, he would definitely burst into tears. Brothers, you finally know how I've been suffering these past few days. This woman's methods of pranking people are really brilliant. Even I, with my extraordinary mental fortitude, was almost broken down by her. The arrow is already knocked on the bowstring, but it can't be released. This is an extremely painful thing. You're not the only one who's suffering. Didn't I also have a stomach ache from holding it in? But Jun Moxie is not here. Chapter 565. At this moment, the evil prince's most horrifying assassination method was finally revealed to the world. This powerful man from the other world finally understood the terror of the evil prince. The current Jun Moxie had far surpassed the peak of the evil prince in his previous life. However, the people he was going to face were also the most powerful men in this world. Moreover, he was not going to face just 1 or 2 of them, but 30 of them. He was like a wisp of invisible wind, drifting across the vast sky. He was also like a tangible but immaterial cloud, quietly sliding down. He was also like a sparkling and translucent snowflake, soundless and traceless. He was more like a ghost of the netherworld, wandering in the void, in the netherworld. His body moved through the ground, and all the aura in his body was restrained. The evil prince of China. The peerless divine sword in his hand followed him quietly, shining with a cold light. The blood of yellow flame. There was a slow and low beating sound coming from it. Although it was subtle, it was exceptionally clear and definite. This was also the only target of June Moxie's assassination this time. Because these supreme martial artists had already retracted their divine sense, sealed all the pores on their bodies, concealed their smell, and even stopped all the fluctuations of their thoughts. As for the turbulence of the dark force, it had already disappeared without a trace. What was left for June Moxie was the extremely weak pulse, which only beat once in a long time. Moreover, this was because their bodies were so close to the ground that they could only produce the slightest fluctuation. Even if their bodies propped up a little and were a finger's distance away from the ground, the beating of the pulse would disappear. But Mei Xuyan's illustrious name was so powerful that they did not dare to move recklessly for even a moment. Just like that, Jun Mo Xia stealthily snuck over, silently counting in his heart, 1, 2, 3. The Supreme Golden City's arrangement was very tight this time. Each group consisted of 3 people in a triangular formation, which was the best triangular battle formation. They were not scattered at all. Such a tight formation made it extremely difficult for Jun Moxie to assassinate them. Jun Mo Xia silently stopped his stealthy figure, and pondered for a moment. Then, his eyes flashed, and he closed his eyes. The corners of his mouth slightly drooped, revealing a cruel angle. He had already made up his mind, and had already formulated a plan of action. The peerless godly sword in his hand, the blood of yellow flame, suddenly became as dull as a burnt piece of wood. Even the unparalleled sharpness and baleful aura disappeared without a trace. Jun Moxie silently arrived below the 3 of them. In the darkness, his body paused. Without any warning, without hesitation, he raised his sword and stabbed forward. Stab! From the bottom to the top, like a black bolt of lightning, it abruptly rushed towards its target under the cover of the deep earth. This sword was a sword that could take lives. But there was not the slightest bit of killing intent. It didn't even have the slightest sense of sharpness. It was like a dry branch piercing through the air unintentionally. The tip of the sword pierced through the soil and then the snow on the soil. Then, it silently pierced through the chest of the supreme martial artist master. The sword pierced through the heart by 1 point. Not more, not less, just 1 point. 1 point was enough. The art of unlocking heaven's fortune turned into a violent airflow and silently pierced through the tip of the sword. In an instant, the heart was burnt and the internal organs were destroyed at the same time. At the same time, the sword controlled his brain and throat. This was a foolproof plan because some masters, even if their hearts were crushed, they could still make some sounds and even make their last struggle. But now, he was destined to not struggle anymore. If he struggled, Jun Moxie would be exposed. Jun Moxie would not allow any accidents to happen. So, when the sword entered his body, it instantly controlled his brain and throat. The supreme martial artist master of the Supreme Golden City did not have any abnormalities on the surface, but his internal organs were already a pile of rotten meat. A supreme martial artist master died in such an unknown way, it was extremely unjust. 1-hit kill. The black sword suddenly disappeared. In fact, the black sword basically did not come into contact with the air. Who asked the supreme martial artist master's body to be so close to the ground? The supreme martial artist master on the snowy ground did not even understand, or perhaps, he did not even have the time to understand. He only felt as if his chest was bitten by a mosquito, and then he lost consciousness forever. Even until the moment of his death, he still did not understand. Why did I die just like that when I was lying there? I was still waiting to ambush Venerable Mei, waiting to create the great achievement of killing the first beast king of Tianfa. His body remained in its original position, lying on the ground in the layer of snow. It was as if he was still dutifully holding his post, but he could no longer play any role. The wound made by the tip of the sword was narrow, like a red mark made by a tree branch. Blood rushed and condensed in his body, filling up his entire abdomen, but from the wound, not a single drop of blood flowed out. June Moxie did not stop and quickly retrieved the blood of yellow flame. There was no trace of blood on the edge of the sword, it was still as dark as before, but June Moxie clearly felt that there was an obvious excitement in the sword in his hand. Or maybe it was an illusion. June Moxie actually felt that at this moment, the divine sword and the blood of yellow flame were connected to his mind, and there was even a subtle feeling of a blood connection. After killing people, the blood of yellow flame was watered by the blood of the supreme martial artist master, and it stimulated the bloodthirsty nature of the sword. Just like at this moment, the murderous intention in June Moxie's heart could no longer be suppressed. The King of Assassins, Xie Jun's first assassination in this different world was actually 8 months after he transmigrated, and there was a supreme martial artist master. This starting point could not be said to be low. June Moxie moved silently. What he killed just now was only the leftmost part of the triangular formation. And it was only the beginning of tonight's massacre. Now, June Moxie's target was the person on the right. Only a distance of 2 feet. The person at the tip of the triangular formation, June Moxie, temporarily did not move. Because the person at the tip of the triangular formation was a supreme martial artist master. June Moxie did not have the confidence to assassinate him silently, so he decided to get rid of the other 2 helpers first. In this way, even if the supreme martial artist master finally reacted when he was attacked, he would still have killed 3 of them, which was better than killing 2. Schwa. The tip of the sword silently pierced into the soil, into the layer of snow, the long sword craftily moved up again, and the art of unlocking heaven's fortune silently exploded in the body of the master above, destroying. Then it silently retracted. Under the ground, June Moxie stood with the sword in his arms, and quickly took 2 breaths. If anyone were to see him, they would definitely see that his face was flushed red. These 2 swords looked simple and easy, but in actual fact, it was extremely difficult. Whether it was the direction, angle, or the speed of the attack, the rapid input of tyrannical energy, and then the instantaneous control. If there was a mistake in any of the links, it would directly lead to failure at the last step. After all, the target of the assassination was a supreme martial artist master. Other than concentrating all of his energy, June Moxie also had to concentrate all of his energy, chi, and spirit, without any distractions in his heart, in order to execute this soundless, murderous, and unpredictable killing move. As long as there was a slight flaw in any of the links, with the strong vitality of a supreme martial artist master, opening his mouth and letting out a scream was definitely the simplest thing to do. But June Moxie could not let him let out a scream, not even a little bit. Just like that, 1 man and 1 sword, 2 swords to kill 2 supreme martial artists. This caused a huge loss to June Moxie's energy, chi, and spirit. Now, he was trying to recover in the shortest time possible. The next target of the sword was a supreme martial artist master. If he wanted to kill them silently, he had to be more careful. In front of the valley entrance, Mei Shuyan sat quietly on a big tree. She looked back from time to time, and it seemed like she was waiting impatiently. All the supreme martial artists who were hiding in the dark saw this scene, and they naturally understood. If not, why didn't we see that little thief June Moxie? This girl must be waiting for her little lover. No wonder she was so restless. But, we really don't want to kill your little lover, we only want to kill you. Don't worry, he will definitely be fine. Come in quickly, if you come in, everyone will be free. Don't play with us anymore. Everyone was praying sincerely in their hearts. Mei Shuyan sighed softly, and there seemed to be some hidden bitterness on her face. She raised her pretty face and looked over. That beautiful face of hers was faintly tainted with a layer of faint worry, and everyone couldn't help but feel pity for her. Another sigh. Mei Shuyan seemed to be in a very low mood, and she looked back reluctantly. Suddenly, her body moved, and she floated down from the tree. She seemed to be in a daze, and she walked towards the valley. Phew! You finally came. That was really worrying me. Mei Shuyan walked forward for 3 to 4 feet, and then she stopped in a daze. She looked back again. Then, she stood in the middle of the road with a heavy heart. She didn't move again, motherfucker, she didn't move again. Xiao Weicheng and the others almost spat out a mouthful of blood. My dear grandma, what are you doing? Ah. I know you have never been in love before, but you don't have to do this, right? Even if you rush over, we will let you kill us. This is too torturous. Just come over, and everything will be free. Whether you live or die, you die, and I die. Just give us a quick death. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Mei Xuan stopped for a while, and then she suddenly turned back and walked back the way she came. After a few steps, she turned back and walked a few more steps. She kept pacing back and forth, and coincidentally, she didn't want to cross the minefield no matter what. Damn it! Everyone cursed in their hearts. Even Xiao Weicheng, who was above the great master level and had hundreds of years of cultivation, almost went crazy. How could there be such a thing in the world? All of the experts from the great golden city seemed to be burning with impatience in their hearts without any exception, but they didn't dare to move at all. What was going on? What was going on? Why didn't you just not come? We wouldn't be so anxious even if we didn't see you. But you came. Why don't you go a little further, and let us have the guts to move a little? But you are so close to us, you have a worried look on your face, but we are 10,000 times more depressed than you. So depressing. So depressing. Where did your little lover go? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.